Before we begin, I want to be transparent about what you're about to hear. This conversation will be graphic, emotional, and raw. We'll be talking about grief, trauma, and survival, what it means to love someone who was deeply hurting, and what it takes to rebuild your life after they're gone. I'll share stories about people who knew what was happening behind closed doors and chose to stay quiet, as well as those like Amanda and Kyree who learned about our past, showed up for us, and have continued to show up every single day since. I want to be clear, I'm not here to tell Michael's complete story. That story belongs to him, and it's a sacred conversation I'll have with my children one day when they're ready to hear it. This podcast is for me and my own mental health journey, so I can stop splitting myself into two, pretending I only grieve the man he became and not the trauma left behind by the man I used to fear. This podcast isn't for entertainment or pity. This is for those who stayed too long but still begged their person to never leave. And it's for those who feel they must grieve privately because the person they lost also caused them pain. And while suicide becomes a choice for those who continue to suffer in silence, I want the opposite for my children and myself. We will continue to heal out loud. Now more than ever, I feel the weight of not just being a parent, but being their parent. And if you're still with me after hearing all this, thank you for holding space for me and my story. And to Amanda and Kyree, I genuinely could not have done this without you. If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide, please reach out to the 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline by calling or texting 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. Before we dive into everything, I feel like it's important to talk about my upbringing and what really shaped me and allowed me to, really what conditioned me to believe it was okay to tolerate what I went through.
Yeah, like here's what primed why I put up with the things that I put up with, along with, again, the person that I was showing online.
Yep. My dad, who I do not have a relationship and I have not spoken to in nearly 5 years, was very physically and mentally abusive. But growing up in the church and my mom singing every Sunday, I was taught, you stay, you submit, unless it's one of these 10 things, then you leave. And I remember distinctly talking with my mom, why are you getting divorced? And again, some of her reasons are not my story to share, but the part that affected me at that time was my dad cheated.
Yeah.
And that was okay to leave then. I watched my older sister have her dreams be taken away when she became pregnant at 17 with my niece. And so for me, 5 years younger than her, I told myself I wasn't allowed to date. I needed to keep my head down, go to college, move away, because that was going to be my way out. So when I met Michael, I was just finishing up my degree. I never had a boyfriend before him.
Did you and Amanda already know each other?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Amanda and I were in the same sorority together in college. At that time, she was just my fun bestie across the room. But when I had met him, I had just said yes to my full-time career in events. And at that time, nobody was working and in that headspace as I was. And so when I met him, he was also working, was paying for his own life as I was and whatnot. So to me, I was attracted to somebody who was so adamant on providing for himself. I, now looking back, realize how desperate I was just to be loved. Because I didn't receive it from my dad. That was always conditional. Every man in my life at that point had already failed me. And the thing is I told him that. He knew that. And even at that time, truly in my heart of hearts, even looking back, I don't think he wanted to take advantage of that. But I when I look at and I question why did I stay for that period of time, I truly thought I didn't deserve better. I wouldn't receive better. And I'm not proud of that. I will raise my kids with a very different mindset.
Yeah.
But it also, to understand how did I get there, I feel like you also have to understand what I was conditioned to believe at that time too.
I want to also add in, and this isn't, again, this is Michael's story to tell. This is not a justification for anything that happened. Again, I work with men from all different backgrounds, childhoods, and from what I understand about Michael, what I can pretty confidently say is that the way you were treated was a way to cope with things that he had experienced as well. And that's something that he was open about to obviously those of us close to him.
Yeah.
Without going into details of any of it. Like, again, it doesn't justify any sort of action, but it was probably also a version of, if I don't do this, she won't love me. If I don't do this, she'll leave me. If I don't do this, like, I'll re-experience things that I don't want to re-experience. And so it was an attempt at a control mechanism, not to be manipulative and not to try to be that, but it ended up being that no matter what. Like, that's where we can go, this is absolutely wrong, even though I know where it probably came from. It is still absolutely wrong.
Oh, yeah. At that point, he was shown that was also okay and taught to believe that too. And so, as shitty as it is, I'll tell you, when I have watched the last couple of weeks, Cassie with Diddy talk about, and I commend her at 8.5 months pregnant, sitting on the stand, sharing her story. Yeah. I'm listening to her and it just hit me. It's just, why did you stay? You still are conditioned to love that person. And to look now, again, at that 7.5 years of that version, we were trauma bonding. It was the highs and the lows. We would both agree neither were okay.
Yeah, but it's addictive.
But it's addictive. And I remember we used to say, we're both two broken people. Let's just hope our broken pieces fit together. And I truly thought in my heart of hearts, if I showed him unconditional love, it would replace or heal the broken pieces for him. Because at that point in my life, I couldn't change what had happened to me as a child. I couldn't. At that point, all I can do, and I know I can only control myself, I felt that responsibility for myself. But I just thought if I loved him unconditionally and pray and hope I got an apology, we could heal together. And that's not fair on either one of our sides.
Talk to me about, like, what were some of those early things you noticed that you maybe wish you would have gone back and been like, okay, that should have been addressed then, but I let it go on too long because of these things that I've experienced. What were some of those initial things that you can now look back and see as probable red flags?
Well, there's lots of red flags. I like distinctly remember the first time he called me a bitch, and telling him at the time, you are not to call me anything but my name or another term of endearment. And that wasn't the only, and it wasn't certainly not the last time he ever did.
Yeah.
And when I think of like early signs or what, it's as small as that.
And that's probably how it continues going.
Oh, yeah.
Because if it started off as the biggest thing possible, it would have been easier to just go, I'm not doing this. It usually probably does start off small, right?
Yeah,
and then it escalates from there.
Yep. And it's then, I'm sorry. But then when it happens again, I look at how many different times I should have left and held my respect as number one. But I would say that was definitely a first red flag. The first time he had gotten arrested was for him and I were leaving the bars. And he was quite drunk. We get back to our apartment. The thing is, that night, I actually remember what our fight was about. He wasn't debating. It was about birth control. As silly as that is, we were having this talk with our Uber driver about should birth control be free for women? Because it was at the time what was going on in the world. And he goes, I don't disagree with you. I just think it would be fun to debate with you. But at that time, if I disagreed with him, that's when it would start to escalate things. And so we get back to our apartment, things start escalating, and he punched our mirror in our bathroom. Glass went flying all over the floor. My foot is cut. At that point, he didn't put his hands on me, but it was things around our apartment that were getting destroyed. He's full on man screaming in my face, and I end up calling the cops. And in that moment, I didn't think he was going to get arrested. I just recognized this was a bigger moment than me.
Yeah. This needs to be over, whatever it is.
This needs to be over. Yeah. We need to be separated. We're not clearly separating. We're not de-escalating. This isn't safe. And so I remember actually at the time, he, again, full man screaming. I remember I shoved him to get off of me. And so the cops come and he tells them, I shoved him first. Of course. And they said, you're the aggressor. Look at her size versus your size. It doesn't matter. We're arresting you. Yep. And I'm hysterical. I didn't want you to arrest him. I just wanted him to be removed and whatnot. And he's saying to the cops, she's not even on the lease. And so, of course, yep. Angry. She's
trying to say whatever.
Yep. And I end up calling at the time my best friend. They take him away. She comes, and I'm asking her to help me try and bail him out of jail. And we are far above our pay grade in that moment. We don't know what we're doing, how to do it. I didn't know. I've never bailed somebody out of jail at that point. And that was the first time she saw us for what we were behind closed doors. So exactly that. I get a phone call from him 3 hours later. He's still livid with me on the phone. He's also still quite drunk. And I end up bailing him out. I'm like sitting in a bail, I don't know, what do you call him, an office?
Yeah, bail bondsman.
Yep,
office.
Learned all about that at that time. Until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I think I get him out at like 7 a.m. And when he was drunk like that, I would always say it was like the 3-day come down before it was.
Yeah, just a cooling off period.
Cooling off. I'm the devil and I'm the enemy, and there's no reason to speak. But in that, even that alone was so abusive to have a partner who wouldn't even speak to me at that time. But to be honest with you, it was still expected of me to cook, to clean, to do the things, to show up as a partner.
Which digs that emotional hole much deeper.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, but also I think, again, back to my family, my Italian grandmother, who, even if my grandfather was an asshole to her, and you know my grandfather.
Oh, yes.
Yes, Papa.
Gotcha.
Papa. And, but she would still fix him his plate of dinner. She might flip him off when she hands him his plate, but like.
I remember my great-grandparents like this. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. I still love, there's pieces and qualities of, again, the fucked up things I was trained to learn and whatnot.
Yeah, but it's a servitude no matter what. I think that is something that we see as like a generational shift, that how we all raise our children is not that. And it's not we talk about this all the time. We're not a because I say so household. We're not a, like, I'm going to try to find a reason. We're not going to lazy parent our way through what our kids' questions are, what, you know, even how you interact with one another. I don't think generationally it was a standard to do that. And so while we can understand why people were like that, it's also a cycle that should be broken, and that we should be doing something different nowadays.
100%. And even with that, there are people who were in both of our lives who saw things and did nothing.
Yeah.
Even some of his closest friends, men, saw.
Yeah.
And they didn't hold him accountable. There was one time where exactly that. We took my best friend and one of his close friends, and we went to a Raiders-Chargers game. And Michael's drunk before we even get to the parking lot. And I remember telling him, can you please not order any liquor when we go inside? Can you just have beer?
Yeah.
Just beer. Because even at that time, and at this point, this is 2 months after we got married, I thought
So this
maybe
is a consistent cycle between, because we jumped from you guys dating to you guys getting married. This is, let's say, at least a sporadic cycle, if not a consistent cycle in between.
since day one.
Not something to jump into all those stories, but just for people to know this was a consistent thing going on.
Yep.
Through your relationship.
From night one. If I like look back very night one, if I'm being entirely honest with you, I didn't sleep with him night one.
Yeah.
And he kicked me out. And I told him I walked home. He didn't know my best friend lived in the same apartment complex, and I went to her house.
You want him to feel bad.
I just wanted him to feel bad. Yeah. But like looking back now, what the fuck? That should have been my sign right then. Why are you even allowing yourself to be in this person's presence? And again, we've had a year since he's passed. Like, there have probably been a million of those moments to be able to look back. And while you're grieving, again, this side of the husband that you were able to show online and that people knew him as a protective thing of you protecting your husband from the public ridicule that would come along with this, you're able to spot all those different moments, even though we're not covering them, like those were still happening along the way. From moment of meeting, getting married, past marriage, into kids. Yeah. It was always there. Yeah. And at what point would you say it became normal? Because again, you can look back and say, I should have left then, I should have left then, I should have done this, I should have done that. At what point do you believe that you were just like, this is life now, unfortunately? Like, when did it become normal? Because I think that's what happens to a lot of people. Yeah. If this is a message for women partially, you know, who are going through something like this, milder versions, more extreme versions, whatever, at some point it's normalized and they just go, this is my life now. And it's probably not a one-time moment. It's probably through a certain period that it just becomes, this is what I'm in now. Yeah. And I'll say before I answer, I recognize I'm speaking from a woman's perspective. You are speaking from a man's perspective who, in your guys' marriage, this would, one, never happen. I don't want to generalize when I say women. I also want to acknowledge men go through things too. Yeah, yeah. But for me on the women's side, I think when it became normal, I would say, I feel like it was exactly that. Like, I would say after after we got married, that Raiders game, like when I think of like a moment, I was already in it. Yeah. And maybe also, I'm not going to assume, but maybe when you see that it's happening around other people and nothing's being done about it, I thought you can just go, well, there's no help for me anyway. No, I had, at that point in our lives, everybody had moved away post-college. We were both just working. Yeah. We had zero family within an hour-and-a-half radius. And at that time, it was just his side of the family that lived near us. I had nobody there to stand up for me. Yeah. And so I think it was marriage in my mind. It's that commitment. We're here now. Yep. That was, again, what I was told. That's what the marriage commitment was. So committing to marriage is also committing to everything that came along with it. I knew what I was going into. Yeah. So at that point in my mind, I signed up for both versions of him. The one that loved me and the one that would still hurt me. Not saying it's okay. Of course. But that for me was that moment. And so, I think that would be it for me. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think from a man's perspective, and I talk to people about this quite a bit, of holding people close to you accountable. Yeah. And I always, ask online, what men hold you accountable. Like, I speak to men, what men hold you accountable in your life? And so often they go, nobody. I don't need to prove anything to anybody. Nobody shapes like how I act. And I just know that that's untrue. All of who we are as men is shaped by other men. Yeah. And whether we want to agree with it or not, you were shaped by another person, whether it's a good example or a bad example. As men, we were shown who to be, who not to be, good, bad, and ugly by other men. And I think that it is a responsibility and something that we're going to talk about that we kind of took on to some capacity to help shape the people around us. Because I always ask when I talk to couples, I've actually had my couples that I work with argue in front of me. Yeah. And it changes the entire thing, right? Yeah. People do not act the same when they have an audience or when they know that they're being possibly judged by somebody else. But if you've built up a circle of people around you that won't do that for you, it also allows things like this to continue. It does. And I think that's where, again, when I think about why am I willing to share this, for him, he was able to continue on in that pattern because he would tell me our business is our business. We keep this. Hide it. Closed doors. So when I look at last year I really struggled with looking at my Instagram, and I would post, should I keep this Instagram? Should I make a new one? Professionally, personally, what do I do?
Yeah.
I struggled with that because I would look at these pictures of us at concerts or Disneyland, and I'm purposely posing in a certain direction so you don't see bruises on me. And it was so hard to look at myself smiling and know at the time what fights we were having, where we were at mentally.
Yeah. Because that's what you see,
Mm-hmm.
right? You see the actual story of what happened, but you also recognize me posting it as if that wasn't happening was also allowing it to continue happening.
You know,
and I'm not. None of this is like, MaKela, here's where it was your fault.
No,
at all.
This is me more so sharing for the, again, person, the woman who also is sitting there hiding behind the closed door because it's easier. And it's partly, it was definitely fear of judgment of myself, as I do come off as confident and in that sense of I have my shit together, but behind closed doors, you never know what somebody's going through in their lives. And even to jump forward to the hardest day of my life, his funeral, I wouldn't say actually it was the hardest day of my life. Really, it was that day. The day.
Yeah.
But the funeral was hard because I remember distinctly going in after the Safeway to go get milk for my daughter. And I'm standing there in line and nobody knew what I just done. I just buried my husband.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, I want to just have so much grace for people because you have no idea.
Yeah. When you think about it from those other people at the grocery store, or now when we're at the grocery store or anywhere, I don't know what any one of you is going through, but I also know it exists.
It does.
So it's weird to not know. It's this hidden thing that like people are going through this, but I don't know that you're going through this. I don't know that you just went through this today. I don't know that you just had this happen today. I think about it, and we'll talk more about it. A small portion was picking Andre up from school that day that had happened. I have to pretend this kid's dad isn't like, I didn't just see what I just saw that morning.
Yeah.
And that, again, you can have people be clueless and know that things exist, but until it's close to us, we don't realize like how much of an impact that has on people.
No. And even to that grief, how do you support people and those who have and haven't shown up for myself and my family? It's easier to ignore and exactly that, not call him out or someone out and say, bro, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Stop yelling. What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's easier to say that's somebody else's problem to step in.
Yeah.
Than to say, let me interject myself and play a role in this. And that's not an easy thing to take on. But I think it's just, if we expect different for the generations, our kids to come, I want Andre to tell his best friend, what the fuck are you doing?
And what's crazy, Michael would have wanted that for Andre too.
He would have.
Michael would never want McKenna to go through that.
No.
I think about that, and this is kind of how it does get more hidden, is I think of who Michael was before we had a real honest interaction with one another, myself and him. He was quiet Mike. He was MaKela's husband. I didn't know him.
We weren't the couple.
You guys were best friends.
Yeah.
And Michael was your husband. So hey man, you want to grab a drink? Hey man, you want to come outside and smoke some hookah? Yeah. Let's hang out. But he was kind of quiet and reserved. Yeah. Or I remember one of my friends was smoking weed in my backyard, and he was like, "No, I'm not really a weed guy. I drink." Good. But I don't really want to drink today. I think it was like our Super Bowl party or something. You guys were over. And that people can get good at hiding that too, especially around men that they believe would hold them to a standard. Yeah. And I think that was part of what separated Michael and I at the beginning. Yeah. He knew what I did for a living. Polar opposites. He knew what like who I was as a person. Yeah. He probably knew that, this guy's going to, like, if I were to show pieces of this guy would say something. Yeah. And so are you comfortable now going into maybe the day that we found out something was going on? Yeah. So we moved to Arizona. My mom's side of the family's here. I mean, there's multiple things that truly I think we would not have been together anymore if we didn't do, and that really starts with us moving from Northern California. Yeah. And when we did, that was like the height of his biggest drinking at that point. 4th of July, he's shit-faced in front of my family, punched a wall. But him and I were home. And so our son at the time is probably a little over a year. This is while you guys are in Arizona? In Arizona, okay. Yep. A little over a year. And he punched 2 holes in our house, both upstairs. And I
don't remember if I brought Andre over with me to you guys, or maybe I brought him over to my mom's and then came over to you guys, because I think I didn't respond back to you guys for like 2 days. And I remember sitting on your couch.
No, we were supposed to all hang out that day.
Oh, that's right.
I was filming a podcast at my friend's house, and I get a text from Michael that goes, "We're not coming over. Sorry,
right.
we'll see you guys later."
You're
And
right.
I paused my podcast with my friend. I was like, I don't know what's going on.
And you guys called me and you said, "Are you okay?" I said,
I
"No."
headed over to your house. I was sitting in front of your house when you called me, and you were like, "Hey, where are you?" And I'm not going to say, I have a weapon and I'm sitting in front of your house and making sure everybody's safe because I don't know what's going on. And you go, "Well, I'm in front of your house." I was like, that's a much better option. And I rushed home.
Yeah.
And that's when we sat on the couch and chatted about it.
I was terrified to let you guys in. You guys were my only 2 people out here that wasn't family. And Amanda being in our sorority and knowing me from college and whatnot, she knew of my best friend and was my maid of honor in our wedding. And she stopped being my friend because I chose to stay with Michael.
Yeah.
And I was so scared to tell you guys anything because I didn't want to lose your wife. Yeah. Again, we weren't homies then.
No, I didn't know you like that.
No, we've maybe been living there 3 months or so.
Yeah, you were my wife's best friend.
Yeah. And I remember just sharing, at that time, he didn't put his hands on me. It was the holes in the wall. And I just really prayed and hoped that us moving to Arizona was like the end of that era. And to see that and to have our son now be around that, I was lost. And
it was a breaking point.
It was a breaking point. And I remember you guys both sitting there just saying, "What do you want to do?" And at that moment, I didn't truly know. But you guys just created this space for me to share without judgment. And having Amanda ask me, "Is this why you stopped being friends with?" I couldn't hide it anymore.
And Amanda is, we have to say, the most accepting, loving, I will drop everything for you person.
Yes, she
like, that is the person to open up to. Again, you didn't even know how I was going to receive it in the first place.
No, I didn't know if you're going to take your gun and go straight back to our house.
You know Amanda's a safe place to go. Yeah.
But even, I'll say, at that moment, your wife and I, we weren't the best friends that we are right now.
No.
Like, it was truly...
You were an old friend who had moved closer.
Yeah, and we were both moms. We could have this in common. She was my drunk bestie, like friend and college,
college drunk bestie.
Yeah, college drunk bestie. But like, she showed up for me right then, and has shown up for me every single day since. More than my own family has at times. And just to be seen and heard by you guys. And it was just first, okay, let's talk. I remember you guys first asking me, "Okay, if you go home right now, let's talk safety. Let's come up with an actual game plan." At that point, you gave me a code to your house and all the things. So if this were to escalate.
That was the day you started sharing your location.
That was the day I started sharing my location. You guys are the 2 motherfuckers who have my location in this world.
Yeah.
But from that, it then became, you were not, understandably, willing to allow Michael. Well, here's the thing. You guys came to me and you said, "Listen, we've had a talk. We are going to love and support you. If this is your decision, then we are going to love and support the both of you.
Yeah.
Rather, if that's your decision to leave, we'll support you. If that's your decision to stay, we are there to help foster this for you guys." Yep. You had shared that you would only allow Michael back into your home or around your wife and your daughter, who I think at the time was 3-ish months, really.
Yeah, she was very young.
Really young. If he sat down and had a conversation with you. And I've said this to you, it took a special type of man who was willing to sit down and have that conversation and say, "I'm willing to let you into my home.
Yeah.
But here's what the standard, the expectation, what I had hoped so many before around him would have done."
Yeah.
But I also want to acknowledge it also took a man on Michael's part to show up and be willing to have that conversation too, because he was never willing to own up his own shit with my friends who were no longer my friends before.
Yeah. Also for him to reach out to me.
Yeah.
It would have been way different if let's say I confront him.
Yeah.
Because I didn't talk to him that day.
No.
I didn't feel it right to go over there and berate him and, what do I do there, right? We're going to get the police called on us.
He was pissed at me for telling you guys.
Yeah.
And I said, you did what you asked me not to do. You told them. You didn't have to send that text.
He definitely opened it up because that's what sent off my alarm bells.
Yep.
It was a weird it was a fictionally calm text. I know he was pretending to be calm on the text, and I was like, something's going on.
Yeah.
Immediately in my head. But for him to reach out, I knew that it was a man who wanted to change. I saw that it was probably somebody who had no idea how to, and how much of a move it was for him to go, can we grab lunch and let's really talk about this?
Yeah. I am so thankful that you and Amanda created that space for me, because at that moment in time, the only other person, and really my mom at that point knew the extent of things had been. I didn't have any friends in that capacity.
Yeah.
So I think of things that genuinely led to him changing. I would say it's 3 things: us moving to Arizona, my mom still choosing to love him unconditionally.
Mom was his homie too.
My mom was
Patty was the
homie. But also you and Amanda showing up as friends, it then set the standard. This can't be a secret anymore.
Yeah.
He wanted to change. And again, there's very few people in this world who could say they know and saw both versions. I think the next night where it was so important, the role that both you and Amanda played for us was his last night drinking. Him and I are at a level 10 fight. My mom sitting on the couch watching him go off and go out the door.
Yeah.
And I remember telling her, he's not coming back. When I look back, and him and I had spoken about it, that was really the night I questioned, was he capable of suicide?
Yeah.
It was something I just felt in my gut.
Well, especially he turned off his location.
He turned off his
location. That was
location.
what you called us with.
Yeah.
Is I'm scared he turned off his location.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what really set me off, where I felt like it could be you were disconnecting from us as a family, because normally if we were fighting, if I sent him a text, Andre wants to say goodnight, we could show face for the 30 seconds for our son to say goodnight. Then we'd hang up and we'd continue on. I sent the text, made the phone call. He wasn't answering. It was that piece for me.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it's probably around midnight when I hadn't heard from him in like 6 hours. And I remember asked my mom, what do I do? It's middle of the night. And I called you and I said, I need to ask you to go do something for me. Maybe Layla at this point. She's
probably
like
6 months old.
Yeah. February.
Yeah. So because I think
like
the first one was like October, November.
Yeah.
This is now February.
Yep. And at this point, we have already tried eliminating liquor. I had already found a bottle of, he's still drinking.
Yep.
And I asked you, can you please go? This is the last location I have seen. He's not responding. I had already Googled the Peter Piper Pizza.
Yeah.
Is closed. I don't know what to do. And I, at the time, have my 1-something-year-old.
Yeah, you can't go over there.
I can't go over there. I can't bring him. I don't know what I'm going to. And you went to him.
Yeah.
And I commend both you and Amanda, because it took a special type of woman to be willing to let her husband, who again, we weren't homies just yet, to go leave when she has a young infant still at home that she's up all night with, dealing with things, and still be willing to let you go to help me. That was, while we laugh at that night, at pieces of it,
yeah,
it was really the next time where Michael actively is being seen. He wasn't expecting to see you in that moment.
I can pick up kind of that story because that's kind of where I come into it.
Yeah.
Was after the phone call, I head over there and I don't know what I'm walking into either, right?
Nope.
You just said, can you go see if his car is there? He drives this car.
Yeah.
And can you just see if his car's in the parking lot? And I remember pulling up maybe like a few rows behind him. He's like right up against the building in the first parking spot. And I called you and I go, I see him. What do I do? And you just said, can you just wait? See if he moves, if whatever happens. So I pull up next to him, like a few spots away, and I look over and he's asleep in his car.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, thank God he's safe at least. So I text you and I said, he's asleep in his car. What do you want me to do? Can you just hang out there for a few minutes? Yeah. Totally fine, right? I'm already here. And I just get this thing in my head that just goes, again, this is not who I thought this woman's husband was when he was just quiet Michael at our house, didn't really talk too much, but was nice, pleasant, friendly. Sometimes people need a nudge in the right direction. And I'm okay being the person to nudge, right? I'm built for it, personality-wise, size-wise.
Yeah.
I'm not the person you want waking you up drunk in your car going, aw.
Oh, fuck.
And so when I knock on his window, that's what I get. Picks his head up, and puts his head back down. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you're caught, right?
You're caught.
Damn it. Somebody saw me where I didn't want people to see me, right? Mm-hmm. What I'm doing is running away.
Hide. Yeah.
What I'm doing is hiding. I can't hide anymore. Mm-hmm. And I watched a man who wrestled with it. Yeah. This is where I started to really empathize as well. But also, again, standards don't drop when you empathize. Mm-hmm. I can empathize and I can also have a boundary. Yeah. So I go, the dude's caught. Hey, man, he rolled down his window. I'm just here to take you home. We don't have to talk.
Yeah.
I'm not here to confront you. I'm not here to say anything.
Should not be driving.
Let me just take you home to your family. And I remember specifically, he said, I don't know if I have a family anymore.
Yeah.
And that's where I start going, okay, this guy's at a breaking point.
Yeah.
This guy is at a point where he can go one or two directions. He can run away. He can, remove himself. Not in that way, but like, I don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. They're better off without me. Mm-hmm. Like all the things that can lead in this direction, or he can lean back in.
Yeah.
And I watched him wrestle with it.
Yeah.
Even though it's not in the right state of mind.
Yeah.
I can see him doing that. Yeah. And so I just go, I'm going to go sit in my car, man. You let me know when you're ready to go home. We don't have to chat about it. Not a single word. Yeah. I'll drop you off at home. I don't even know if I have a home to go back to. I said, all good, man. I'll come check on you in a few minutes. So I go back and I sit in our car. I see him get out of his car, walk down in front of the grocery store that's right there, walk back, sparks up a Black & Mild and just sits against the building.
Yeah.
And I remember calling you again. Hey, here's where he's at. He's safe. I'm just going to watch him, see what happens. And I tell this story. It's the funniest thing to me.
I know.
He comes up and knocks on my car door.
Let's also clarify. Michael was like 6'3".
He's not a small dude.
He's not a small. He definitely was like, but like
6'3", 215.
Yeah.
He's a big guy.
Like 250.
Oh, okay.
At that time.
Bigger than I thought. Yeah. Before he started losing weight.
Yeah.
Knocks on my window and goes, "Are we good?"
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, "Yep." Yeah. And he steps back. It's total like high school fight thing. Again, he's drunk. So I can give him credit. Pulls his pants up like we're about to fight. Yeah. I said, "Are we good?" And I go, "Okay, two things can happen here. I can brag to your son for the rest of your life that I beat your dad up, but he's drunk and he's going to have a caveat. Or I can be what I've been right now, right? I can just, dude, this is all I'm here for. That's all I'm here for is just to get you home." And I roll my window back up.
I know. I don't want any problems. Are you sure I did that? He'd be like, "Yes."
I remember him saying the next day, he's like, "So I heard
I tried to fight Kyree.
I tried to fight Kyree last night." And so, I mean, I leave him in his car. I remember we're driving home. I was like, he's just going to sleep it off. I remember driving home and he's calling me before I'm even out of the parking lot. "Hey man, did you grab my keys?"
Oh yeah.
I was like, "I didn't touch you. I didn't reach in your car." I didn't know he used to hide his keys from himself.
Yeah, because he
would
drink and drive.
There was a thing there.
Yep.
And so,
which he knew that time. I really said there was only two non-negotiables.
Yeah.
Going into this, I said, I don't drink and drive. I've lost friends in high school to that.
Yeah.
And you don't cheat on me, given what my dad had done to my mom. Yep. Those were the two things.
Yeah. So we had left that night where it was, right? He ended up getting home, thankfully. Your mother helped with getting him home. Yeah. Thank God for Patty.
Yeah.
And then we don't really talk
for the record, my mom's name's Alana.
No.
but we call her Patty.
I call her Krabby Patty.
Krabby Patty.
It was an inside thing.
It's a Hawaiian thing.
I don't think I've ever called her Alana.
No.
But it was so much funnier to call her Patty. We were also in a fantasy football league.
So
yes.
Yeah.
The fact that it like kind of annoyed her made it funny.
Yeah.
Love her to, oh my God, I loved her to death.
I know.
And so we didn't really follow up a whole lot except, dude, I'm kind of embarrassed about what happened.
Yeah.
I apologize. I kind of showed my ass, but
that for me with him was really the time when I gave him, this is black or white.
Yeah.
And I remember him coming home the next day and we sat down. My mom watched Andre for a couple days for us. At that time I had told him, and I have been in therapy practically my whole life. One, you need to get into therapy. Two, drinking will no longer be allowed. It's not a liquor or beer.
Yeah, we're not going to tone it down.
We're not toning it down.
Done.
We're past this.
Yeah.
And I said, in trying to encourage him to go to therapy, I would use the example of, we all have boxes in our closet. I have felt it is my responsibility when I became a parent and when I wanted to become a parent to go through my own boxes. And I explained it to him that night. So our kids don't have to go through our boxes for themselves.
Where you don't heal, you pass on.
No, exactly. And so I made that very clear. Either you drink again, or our son and myself, we didn't have Kenna yet, we would be gone.
Yeah, you either drink or you have a family.
Yeah.
But you get one of those.
Yeah. Because to me, it wasn't, he was still capable of the same things without alcohol. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And I knew that, but it was just,
You said it shortened the fuse.
Shorten the fuse, and that fuse would be so much bigger at that point. And so it was truly from that point, February 7th, 2022, that he decided to be sober. And I said, I need you to make this decision, not just for me and your son, but for yourself.
Yeah.
Because this can't just be MaKela told me to be sober. This has to be something that you've wanted.
You got to buy in.
Yeah. And at that point, and we can get into more of my mom, but we've already done an intervention with my mom, our best friends, some of his family. This was a long time coming.
Yeah.
Something that honestly I prayed for. And again, that first initial MaKela and us, I thought at that time that was the answer to it all. I knew it wasn't. I knew there was such more of a mental health component
It's in
to
here.
it. It's in there. Yeah. The alcohol was just him masking his inner feelings. And so truly from that moment on, he did change. He did grow. He became what I always hoped and prayed for. And it's who my kids know and love. That's when I talk about there's two different people that I'm grieving. Where I get sad and where I miss him is who he became.
Yeah.
Who I feel free from in his decision is who he was before that moment. That's who I'm trying now in my life to figure out, who is MaKela? What does MaKela want for her life? Who does she want? What boundaries am I going to set moving forward? That's what I'm navigating now.
Because you're now allowed to, right?
I'm now allowed to.
We have to re-figure out what this looks like.
Yeah. I'm now only accountable to myself. I don't have to please other people in how I operate or what I do. And I want to be so mindful of that. It wasn't, I'm so thankful I stayed so I got to see who he became, because I recognized our situation was 1 in a million.
Yeah. Well, he became who he should have been the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. But it also wasn't without people like you and your wife showing up and saying, we're here. We're not ignoring this. We don't tolerate this from anybody.
Yeah. But we're also not pushing you guys away because of it, right? No. I think that's hard. That's a hard thing to ask of anybody, is one. And that's not even something you asked of us either.
No, and I was like, I'm not asking you guys to do this. I didn't want other people to take on my own burden.
Yeah. It wasn't like I need you guys to help me fix this. And for anybody, really, it's, you need something to happen is the answer. Somebody needs to step up. And usually it's multiple people or a group of people need to step up and be willing to just say. So it's not, I would hope that if it wasn't us, it would have eventually been somebody else. I'm glad that it was us in multiple moments, right? Yeah. I'm glad to have been the person that was called, but somebody needs to be there. Somebody needs to also like hold a loving standard. Yeah. And me holding that loving standard that night, you holding that loving standard going on past then, him also being because of that night being willing to talk to me. I remember him coming and showing off his sobriety tattoo to me.
Like literally within that same week, he went and got a 2-7 tattoo on his wrist because he wanted the daily reminder of that decision.
Yeah. Which is funny because we joked about he wished he would have done it 4 days earlier because it could have been Michael Jordan's number.
Exactly. Yes. 23.
I wish I had 2-3.
I know. He's like, fuck, why couldn't this have happened? Yeah. But that for me is when I started valuing myself, my family. And truly at that moment, even though he made the decision to become sober, I didn't believe it.
Yeah. Well, how could you, right?
I at that moment? Yeah, there was none of that. But I remember sitting there we were at our kitchen table and saying, Michael, I didn't think you were coming home. And the look in his eyes saying, MaKela, I didn't think I was going to. It was us saying there was a potential for suicide without us outwardly saying
Absolutely.
It. And
because how do you say it, right?
How do you say it? I didn't think that was something that would touch my life that way. But I knew his problems were not just me, but it's truly who we became as a couple. All started from truly that night forward. And I was not willing to get pregnant with our daughter until I felt like there was actually the intention of changing. And truly from that day, he never touched alcohol again.
Yeah.
And there were so many moments when he lost his grandfather. I thought, could this be the moment that would break him? This would be the one. And I had to sit there and ask myself, am I going to be okay with this if he does? Because I can understand it. I could have empathy for it, but I still have this boundary and this standard. And to watch him and be able to say he still stays sober through that. He still stays sober through losing my mom, who truly loved him. I go back to when our second apartment together. So we are married. My mom, my aunt, my brother, sister-in-law, they all come out for my mom's 50th birthday to wine country. Get a limo. We have a beautiful 50th birthday for my mom. And 2 weeks later, he destroyed that apartment. And when I say destroyed, doors taken off, holes, furniture ripped apart. I have a cut still on my forehead from the bottle he threw at me. And I called my mom, and I knew in that moment I needed to leave. And she flew out on the next flight, and she helped me move into an apartment right next to my friend. At the time, we were still friends. And he was on his 3-day drunk bender this time. And he didn't know my mom had come out. He didn't know. I just had packed a bag and started leaving. We show up, my mom, myself, one of his friends, and some of his family, and we had our intervention for him. He hated that. It was not a good response to it.
Not a fun day.
Not a fun day. I don't regret doing it, but not a fun day. But my mom, when I say she unconditionally loved him, she looked him in the eyes that day and said, my daughter is never going to leave you. This is going to have to be your choice. If you can't change, this isn't in you, I need you to leave my daughter.
Yeah.
Even from that, having my mom see us in that capacity, I don't know how my mom still loved him after that, how she could watch me go through the things she did. I hope one day I have that strength to love my children enough to see them go through the things, because they're going to have to make their own mistakes. And I know that. But without my mom doing that, we would not have been where we were too. I want to talk about why you and I have never fully talked about that day.
Yeah.
The day we found him. But that intention was the original idea for this podcast is let's walk through this day. I came to you and Amanda about a week ago and said, I think this is a time and a platform that I really want to share both sides of who I am in this. And for me, it starts
Yeah, why that became an important topic as well is what we should talk about.
Yeah. So after I had moved out, this was maybe early June. Like what year was this? 21? 20? I don't know. We
20.
decide, yeah.
It was before Layla was born.
No, it was before Andre.
When you guys moved here?
No, this is even before that.
The
Yeah.
thing. So that would have been 20 then.
Yeah. No, 19.
19. Yeah.
19, because son was
You guys
born
moved out
20.
here
I'm
in
like, wait,
20.
let's do the
Yeah,
math here. I've maths on myself.
We met you guys in 20.
Yeah.
This is the year before that.
Yeah.
I met you guys in 20.
Yeah. Him and I went to a hotel in Reno to go do a night. I like to gamble. That was the night he beat me so bad that I wake up in a stairwell of the hotel from a security guard at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I remember it's now maybe like I get into our hotel room, I get my bag, my phone. I didn't have anything on me at the time. And I go downstairs, I'm like sitting in their coffee shop, and I call my mom. At that moment, I wish I would have walked right then. And I've asked myself like so many times, if I was told the day I met him, all of what would transpire, what would I still have wanted everything to have happened to now have my beautiful kids? And it's a hard thing because if you were to tell 21-year-old MaKela the things, I would have said, no, I don't want to go through this. I am so thankful that I get to be the mom to get my kids through this too. After that night, my birthday's maybe 2 weeks later, and I want to be clear, it wasn't like he'd do things and I get flowers. It wasn't that. There was gifts and things. It wasn't that in any way.
Yeah.
My thing I held on to was just receiving an apology, which again was so sad that was the bare minimum of accountability that I wanted. 2 weeks later, it was my birthday and he gifted me Beyonce tickets. Something for me I had dreamed of. My mom and I, since I was a little girl, loved Beyonce. I've always said for me, it's Beyonce and country.
Yeah.
Country music. And I just remember getting those tickets and being like, I want to be excited. This is something I've wanted, but I don't need this right now. This doesn't fill me.
Yeah.
The night before going to the concert, he was a raging drunk asshole and tells me the morning of, I'm not going with you. You can go by yourself. And per usual, MaKela, I would beg him to stay, beg him to still love me, give him all the reasons why I am still worthy of his love. And he ends up going. And that was even one of the pictures I had on my Instagram that I deleted because, again, I'm looking at this picture and seeing and knowing what transpired days before, hours before.
Yeah.
Same thing 2 years later. We now have at least Andre at this point. Get to go to her next concert. Same thing night before. I'm not going with you. And it became this thing of, well, I want to go. But I didn't realize at the time how much these two were already just so interconnected. Last week, I got to go to Beyonce, see her country album in New Jersey. And it was truly like an active choice for me of, I want to do something for me this year. I keep saying this year is my yes year. I want to learn more about me, what it is that I want, how can I learn and grow. When my mom had passed, maybe a month or two later, Beyonce's country album came out. And I remember crying to Michael because this was the first album in my entire life that I didn't get to sing with my mom.
With your mom, yeah.
And so when she did pass, we took in my niece. At the time I was only 15, and so we ended up sharing an office upstairs. So when this album came out, I'm listening to it on repeat. It became like our family album. We started to dance to it with our kids, with my daughter. And at that time, I felt like that was so special. I couldn't dance with my mom, but I got to do it with my daughter. So when he passed in June, I stopped listening to that album completely. I wouldn't even touch it, hear it, anything, because I couldn't do it without thinking of him being in our office
It's
together.
so interconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I went to the concert last week, I actually chose to go on my mom's birthday. And it's in the rain. It was great because then I could like cry in the rain.
Perfect time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I sent you guys my photo of me in like my poncho.
In your poncho.
Yeah, it was great. But I didn't realize how much trauma was built up around Beyonce
Yeah.
for me. And to be able to go and still sing some of those songs with my mom. But also realized how fucked up this piece of it became for me. And it really just hit me then. I am, by staying silent about this piece, I'm still hurting that MaKela sitting alone in that stairwell, sitting alone with a broken cut foot, or sitting alone in that bail bond place trying to figure out how
she's not being validated.
She's not being validated either. And I recognize, not that I want my story to change a million people's lives, but if it speaks to one woman sitting in that chair alone, God, I hope this helps her. Because there's still both versions. And so I just remember calling you and your wife after and being like, I think I need to share this piece too.
Yeah.
And talking with my therapist, bless her heart. I knew it's only halting my own grief journey. And something that has been more healing is when I have began to share even just the glimpses of what my kids and I go through. How do I still run a business? How do I still show up for 3 kids? But guess what? I don't know when my son's going to ask me questions. And I still have to be on and do those things, but that's not my feelings getting released either. And so when I thought about this podcast, I wanted to speak to both.
Yeah. You're grieving a complex person.
Yeah.
Right? He is both. He is this and he is that.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to see this, but we can't ignore that he was also this. And I think that's the hard thing to have not talked about it, is to kind of rob maybe somebody else of their own healing journey, or not allow them to hear something that makes them go, oh, I'm in there. And maybe some people don't even realize that they're at whatever point you were at a certain period of time.
In it.
And I don't think most people do. And I think that was probably, it sounds like your hope for talking about this portion of it is, I need to still honor, like I'm grieving this piece of him too.
Yeah.
And there's probably some feelings of guilt, like, why am I grieving this person that was this way to me? But this is part of the whole complex person that we were dealing with, that you were married to, right? That you have beautiful children with.
Yeah. That's the thing. I posted a photo of me at the Beyonce concert. Less than 24 hours later, I take it down because I'm like, the narrative that only myself I portrayed was, he is a loving, devoted husband and father, which again, last 2.5 years, yes, he was. But there was plenty of other posts before that only shared that. If I was somebody else, which I have had the most god-awful things said to me, if I was you, I don't know if I could be out of the house. I don't know if I could be at this public setting. Like, people don't realize how fucked up that was, because that little MaKela in my head going, you have no idea how freeing it feels to be at this concert crying in the rain.
Yeah.
Because someone didn't tell me they're not going to go with me. I chose to go alone to that. It was my choice. And I think the biggest thing in suicide, I lost all choice in a lot of things. I had to move. We had to get a new car. Like, the things became no longer, for me, it was how to function and survive with my kids.
Yeah.
And so this was my choice to share this piece, but it's also, I need to let both live. I need to let both be there, because also I think about my daughter. And if she came to me with this, God, I hope she sings from the fucking rooftops. This is not allowed. This is not tolerated. I hope my son would beat whoever's ass, number one. But also, more than that, I hope they both know that I've created this space for them. And I make my son repeat this back and forth to me all the time. There's nothing you could say or do that would make me love you any less. And he knows that. And I tell him that every single day, because I want him and my daughter, when she's at that point, to
really understand some of this too. They are bigger than whatever problem they may have. I am always going to be on their team. And so again, while my mom still showed up, I want to still show up in that way for my kids too.
And also, I see it this way, and I know you see it this way too, is I talk about my son as an example of what happens when you never have to question your father's love for you.
Yeah.
Right? Whether he's going to be there, whether he's going to show up, what's going to happen, right? I think Andre is a testament and will become a testament to what Michael could have grown up feeling and filled with love and filled with men that are around you. And while Andre isn't going to grow up with his biological father, he will still need that level of support, and he'll show as an example of hopefully what Michael could have become if he had had that level of support, if he had had the men that loved him in that way, if he had had the motherly support that Andre is going to have, if he had the Auntie Amanda that Andre is going to have, and he gets to now be that piece that's, I get to heal me, you get to heal you, so that your son can grow up with what you wish your husband had had.
100%. I even think about, well, maybe a month ago or something, I'm on a work trip and Andre's talking back to his teacher. And I am so big on respect and manners, as you know. And I get a message from the school, it's being really hard. He's talking back and we said, we're going to let you know. And he goes, go ahead, my mommy's on a work trip.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, hell no. And within, 45 minutes, I called Amanda immediately. And I was like, this is this. She goes, Kyree's right by there. He's going to go by the school. I said, thank you. And so I called him because with obviously Michael's choice, and we'll get into that day.
Yeah.
But he dropped him off that morning. He understood and thought that Michael's going to pick him up that day.
Daddy's going to pick me up.
Yep. So we have created the standard. If the plan changes, I will call his school and he will speak to me, so he knows it is coming from me what the plan has changed.
Yep.
So that day was supposed to be my brother picking him up, and I called him and I said, hey, bud, so I hear you're talking back. I just want to let you know Kyree's going to come to the school right now. But Uncle Joey was going to come. He's like, he knew right that he fucked up.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. But it's, again, creating that standard that just because mom isn't here, you are still being accountable to other men, to this is the standard for how you're going to treat people.
Yep.
Even at 4 years old, I don't care.
And something you can't talk your way out of.
Nope, just
or
because
be
you're
cute. I remember when I came into the class, Kyree! Yep. And I was like, what's up, buddy?
Yep.
And also,
we're going to sit down.
We got to talk about this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because he knows he's cute too.
He knows he's
Andre
cute.
can talk his way into it. I was that kid as a kid. I can be cute, right?
I can be cute.
I'm not in trouble, right?
Nope. It's like,
but we have to have that thing too.
Yeah. And I have to do that now because I realize he is going to have so many more hurdles than any other little kid is.
Yeah.
And that foundation, that the tools, the techniques to self-regulate, to be able to articulate your feelings. Again, he was in therapy from when my mom passed. And so when Michael did, I just kept him right on going through, and he will be a lifetime therapy kid too.
Yeah.
But I want him to know it is a beautiful thing. He knows why we go to therapy. He knows what it is, because for him to be the man that I know Michael wanted to become himself, and the expectation that he wanted Andre to become, it has to start now.
Yeah. And that was our conversation in the car that day.
Yeah.
I said, why does Kyree sometimes have to be hard on you? Because you are helping me become a good man. And I said, do you think that's what Daddy would have wanted?
Yeah.
He says, yeah. I said, do you think he would want me to help you become a good man? He said, yes, I think that's what my daddy wanted. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, that's why I have to be hard on you sometimes. And it's not, I'm not yelling at him, I'm not cussing at him, right? But we're setting a standard for how we treat people, and good men treat people this way.
Yeah.
Part of my job, and I think really part of what Daddy would have wanted Kyree to do, is to help you become a good man. And this is part of that. This is why I'm doing this. Yeah. Again, it's not you're in trouble because I say so, you talk back, and it's cut and dry at that. Mm-hmm. It's here's why I have to set a boundary for you. I have to be the person that, oh no, Kyree's coming, right?
Yeah.
Even we talk about he wants to marry our daughter Layla.
Oh, yes, he
you
does.
have to ask Kyree. He goes, no. He knows that like there's a standard that's going to be set. There's conversations that we need to have. There's conversations that he and I are going to need to have in the future that we now take on the responsibility for. And I'm grateful for that responsibility of being able to have that.
I have called you many of times. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this day. And the thing, Kyree, that has resonated with me, and I keep telling myself, I have already lived through the worst day of my life. You can get through anything. And I appreciated when you said that to me, because it has allowed me to go into tough decisions, tough conversations, and this is nothing compared to what
You already did the hardest
hard.
one.
Yeah.
It's not that this isn't hard.
No.
You already did the hardest one.
No. So I want to cheers to you showing up when you didn't have to. And I have appreciated every single day since. And I'm sorry you also have to live with that image too, but I'm grateful I get to share that with you.
I'm glad I was the person, genuinely.
Yeah. Okay. You had asked kind of leading up to, and I know we received some questions, kind of, was there any signs leading up to and what? Kind of, I would say that month before, I could just see a lack of motivation. I would say to even go back a couple months before, in January, he had torn his Achilles at the gym. And I think that fucked with his headspace. We had just lost my mom in November. He wasn't quite sure how to show up for me in that. And then January, first week of January, is when he tore his Achilles. And then at that moment, he became helpless in that sense of he had to allow me to do things for him, which was not, it wasn't just me making dinner, it's helping you walk, helping you do things.
Yeah.
And you should not get up. Let me grab this for you. And I think as a man, that was very hard to allow me to do. So even that, he couldn't drive to go to work. He couldn't do things the way, he couldn't show up to play with Andre the way he wanted to.
I know that weighed on him.
Yeah, it weighed on him. And so then as he kind of started to transition back into working, back into being able to drive, we had just taken our couples trip to Vegas.
The best.
Yeah, so fun. Which I never thought we'd be able to go to Vegas together sober.
I could tell it was a big thing for him.
It was a really big thing for him.
Even like, again, when he got sober, this is a hard thing, again, for what I do, right? I help people. I help fix things.
Yeah.
And I just knew for him, there was and like for a lot of men, there's a pride thing there of, I have to figure it out myself. I have to do it on my own. And so while we never talked about his mental health stuff, I knew like he didn't smoke cigars. Yeah. But I knew when I got a text from Michael said, hey, you want to grab a cigar? I know he just needs somebody there.
Yeah.
And while I told him, I'll never bring up what you need to work through this. You need to talk through this. I'm not that pushy I used to be this pushy person. Talk to me. I just know he needs somebody there.
Yeah.
Or we didn't go to the casino together very often.
No.
But when he goes, hey, you want to go play some blackjack? Hey, you want to go play some poker? He just needs to be away from the mental space that he was already in. And he wants somebody that he trusts to be there with him, that he knows isn't going to try to push it and try to make you do this and try to make you confront this thing.
You'd already proven you're not there to judge him. You're there to be a friend at that point. And at that point, leading up to, the four of us were best. We had our family matters.
We became great friends.
Yeah. We were all great friends. So yeah, kind of leading up to that month, we were planning to move into a big, beautiful home. But I could tell he wasn't excited about moving, which never was he. Who is?
Yeah, it's not fun.
But he was struggling with work. He had reached out to you, potentially wanting to change kind of where he was working and whatnot. And end of May, we went on a family trip with my mom's side of the family. And again, I could just see there's moments of him being disconnected. But when I'd ask, he would just say it's the stress of moving, it's the stress of the job, or what. Obviously now, a year out, I look at it very differently.
Yeah, these are retrospective signs.
Yeah.
These weren't blatantly obvious at the time.
No, at the time, it would be just moments, and I was just aware of them as, again, even I think to any partner who has somebody who has struggled with alcohol, or he never struggled with drugs, but you just become so much more heightened to be more aware to certain characteristic things. Again, while we were still nearly 2.5 years out at that point, I was just aware of it differently. And so, leading up to that week, so he had passed on a Thursday. On Tuesday, him and I are sitting in our office, and we've been trying to pack and do things. And I said, I want to talk to you. And at that point, he stopped going to therapy. Really just after my mom had passed a couple months before. And I remember sitting in our office saying, hey, I'm kind of worried about you. I see you're in this kind of disconnected, depressed headspace. Is there anything I need to know? How can I support you? At that point, we'd already had multiple conversations. If what's making you unhappy is your job, quit your job. That is one thing for me with my career and what I do. Michael was always supportive. He was always wanting me to grow and to change, but I think it was also something really hard for him to watch and see at times. Because I work my ass off, but I love what I do. And so when we were having that conversation and I'm saying, I don't care what it is you do, I see the impact it's changed in my life to love my job. I want you to love whatever you're going to do. So on that Tuesday, I'm telling him, quit your job. We'll figure it out. Why don't we take the summer so you and the kids can travel with me and we figure out the best thing for you to be happy. I'd rather you be happy than anything.
Yeah. And again, from a man's perspective, while that was not an intention of yours at all, that can feel like you want me to chop my balls off. Damn near, right?
Yeah.
You want me to become ineffectual, and already with my Achilles and already with this stuff, like I can see where that can add an unintended weight to a person that goes, this is part of my identity. Part of my identity is I make money and I help take care of my family. And while it's a, dual income home, like I'm a big portion of that.
Yeah.
And you're asking me to drop that. And it's not, again, that's not the intention you had.
No, I thought I was meeting him with whatever it is, we can figure it out together.
Yeah.
That's what he had told me.
But just like people in general, right? We are the stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And so if the story I'm telling myself, if this is part of what makes me a man, and you're asking me to drop part of what makes me a man.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that was an intention at all, and it absolutely wasn't just by knowing you guys, but I know that adds an unintended weight to somebody to go, drop it, I got us, like, let's figure this out. It takes like a different level of teamwork and internal stability as a man to be able to say, okay, I'm going to drop my control a little bit. We talk about the previous version of your guys' relationship. A lot of it was about control.
Yeah.
And control equals safety to a lot of people. You're asking me to drop what makes me feel safe.
Yeah.
And it's for a better cause, and it's for the future of our family, but that can also come with a lot of weight for people too.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's never my intention for that. And I met him, I mean, especially in those first few months, I questioned every single fight, every single thing. How did I contribute? What did I say or did not do? Especially those months, days, hours leading up to, where was I meeting him? And I know in my heart of hearts, I met him with nothing but true love, faith, hope. That again, when I tell my son, we are bigger than whatever problem. And so in that conversation, I said, I'm seeing you in your head. This is the first moment that I'm worried about you drinking again. And I reiterated, that's not an option. I encouraged him and applauded him. I thought that could have been when your grandfather passed, and I'm so proud of you for that. I still hold that true. So and at that point, he was like, I don't want to quit just yet, or what? I said, okay, that's fine, but I want you, would you be open to going to therapy again? And he goes, I really don't know about that right now. I said, okay, well, if it's not therapy today, I want you to either hit up Kyree, go to the casino, go do some man time. I said, hit up my uncles, whatever it is, go shooting at the gun range that we loved shooting.
You got the people.
Yeah, we got the people. Like, reach out to your people then who do love you and would support you. And he reiterated to me his stress and him just being disconnected was just, we had a lot going on. Work, 2 kids, we lost my mom, and just the move. And so I truly believe that. He ended up the next day going to the gun range, you know, to go blow some steam, you know, like that was on Wednesday. Wednesday night, I'm like finishing up a Zoom with one of my couples. He's supposed to be doing something with Andre. Then we're going to grab Kenna and then we're going to race to the new house. We need to go take measurements, but I get off this Zoom and he's sleeping. And I remember being so internally mad. Like, you motherfucker, I am busting my ass right now. How about you pack a motherfucking box? Like, but instead of, again, I didn't want anything to escalate. I just calmly said, I'm really disappointed right now. You see, I'm trying to still handle work while we have this laundry list of things done. I would have loved to have come out if you weren't packing boxes to see you outside playing with Andre.
Yep.
At least if you're not going to contribute to what we're doing, pour into our kids.
Yep.
And I'm so sorry. You know, I'm like, it's okay. I need to go take a little calm down moment. I'm going to go take the measurements by myself. You can be dad for the next 2 hours. I will come home. I remember leaving, and not even 10 minutes later, I get the text. I'm so sorry. Well, I could have had every single right to been like,
you should be.
You should be. I just said, it's okay. I love you.
Yeah.
Because I knew, you know. So then the next day, so Thursday morning, I was going to do an early morning Zoom. So I had asked him to take the kids to school that morning. He took them, he comes back. Recently, or before that, I had asked, you know, something that would really mean, because we really didn't have things that were like ritual, like, okay, daddy always did this for mommy, like whatever it was. So I said, I'd really love for Andre and Kenna to see like every single morning. It seems so small now, minuscule, but I would love for you. Really wasn't a chef, so I wasn't expecting breakfast. I was like, to make coffee for me in the mornings. I was gifted this beautiful Italian, I don't even know what, a maca, something, I don't know, some coffee thing. I said, I'm not even going to learn. Well, he told me, I don't even want you to learn how to make it with this. This will be my thing. I'm going to take this on. I'm going to do it. And he hadn't made me one yet. I think he made me like one, like to try it out when it first came, but like probably had it like a month or something.
Yeah.
He drops the kids off and getting off my Zoom. And with my Mother's Day mug, he had gotten me the like amber mug because I like my shit real hot. He made me coffee. And I remember being like, wow, like just so appreciative. I finished my Zoom. We knew we were going to have like 30 minutes. I was like, it is very important to me. We lost time last night. I wanted to pack some boxes for that. 30 minutes before, at the time, because of his Achilles, he was going to physical therapy for that, and I was going for my neck. And we were going to have like my appointment, then his appointment right after. So we're downstairs, we're packing boxes. We're moving in 2-3 days. And we're going through some of the kids' old clothes. And I said, you know, I wonder if we didn't have Kamaya, my niece, if we'd be having another kid right now. And he said, you know, I guess we don't know, you know, but like we'd always talked about, we're like, let's see.
There's a what if, but here's where we are right now.
Yeah, this is where we are right now. This is not going to be the season for us to have another kid.
Yeah.
And we pack those boxes. He goes upstairs. He gets a phone call from his coworker, Dave. And so I'm like, cool. I have 10 minutes. I'm going to change. And I'll tell you, one of the only things I regret of that day My grandparents are very big on, no matter if you're fighting, whatever it may be, you always kiss your partner goodbye because you never know what could happen. It was one of the things when we were at the highest parts of our fights that I would be like, you left and you didn't kiss me goodbye. He's like, that's the last thing I want to do in that moment.
Yeah.
But we had just kissed 10 minutes before. Like, okay, cool. Packed our boxes. I'm going to go change real quick. He's on the phone call. I changed to go to physical therapy. My appointment's at, 10:30, let's call it. His was at 11:30. I go into his office. I hear him talking with Dave, so I kissed his right shoulder. If I think of that day, it is one of my true regrets. Not for him, not that I think that would have changed the outcome, but for my own thing. So I go to physical therapy. It's wild because in that conversation, one of the guys is about to propose to his girlfriend that weekend. As you know, I'm a wedding planner. So he's asking me, how did Michael propose? I'm laying there on this table pouring out how Michael proposed to me. I get a text from him. I love you. Not even a full minute later, I respond, I love you more.
Which was your guys' thing.
Which was our thing, yeah. Well, we'd always say, I love you never too much, just so much. Because I used to be like, I think I love you too much. Be like, why don't we just say so much, Now it sucks because I hear that and it's like, I feel like I loved him too much for my own self. Get that text, I respond. I'm done at 11:28 and he's still not there. He was like always, he was the early one, okay?
Yeah.
You guys know I'm not the early one. And I finish up and I'm like, that's so weird, he's not here yet. And I'll give him a call. He didn't answer. I look at his location and it says he's at the Target near our house. Like, that's really odd. 2 days before, we were dumping boxes at the big trash can.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. Don't tell my cousin he's a cop in Phoenix. But I distinctly remember.
Don't wipe them. We're here right now.
I know.
We're having it. This is what's supposed to happen.
Just. 2 days before, he tells me, as we're dumping the trash, we could be arrested for this. I was like, what the fuck you mean? This is
Look for cameras.
Yeah, look for cameras. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, it's illegal to do this. I was like, oh shit. I'll try to get arrested.
Yeah.
So I get down by 11:31 and he's still not answering your phone, but his location hasn't moved. I was like, oh shit. Maybe he went to go dump some boxes and there's cops there. Something in me said, and one of the questions we had got, how did I know where to go? I had his location. I knew he wasn't where he was supposed to be. So again, in my head, I genuinely was kidding in my head, like, I'm gonna see cop cars. This is the moment he's getting arrested. I'm gonna give him so much fucking shit right now. And I pull up to his car in the parking lot, surrounded by cop cars. And I get out the car. And, I still have my shirt I was wearing that day. It says Mama, and it's hanging in my closet, and I've never touched, moved, or worn it ever since. I remember walking up to the officer, and I'm like, can I ask what's going on? That's my husband's car. He goes, that's your husband? I say, yes. He goes, how did you know he was here? I said, he's not where he's supposed to be. I have his location. We're both supposed to be at physical therapy. He goes, I'm going to ask you to sit down. He goes, the business inside called. They saw a man asleep in his car. We're waiting on the drone to arrive before we approach the vehicle. I said, at that point, I'm like, what do you mean? I was not at all prepared or expecting that. I thought I was going, one, to see him at physical therapy, tell him I just was talking about the day he proposed to me. And then when he wasn't there, I thought we were going to laugh about this and go pack more boxes.
Yeah.
I remember calling you and saying, like immediately, like as I'm like half sitting down, what? I said, I don't know what's going on. All I know is Michael's in his car and he's surrounded by cops. I need you to get here. And you said, I'm on my way. It didn't matter that it was your wife's birthday the day before. It didn't matter that you had all of her family in town. You got in your car and you came without knowing at that moment what could have been the outcome. You could have absolutely have said, MaKela, I have shown up for you. Much love.
Yeah.
But I got to protect my family. But you came. You and I have yet to walk through this day, minute by minute, all the things. Some of it feels like a movie I watched. Some of it feels like easier not to feel, because I still have to be a mom.
Yeah.
You had told me that I had called you. At that moment, I had called my aunts and said the same thing. I don't know what's going on. I think I need you guys to get here right now. My aunt owns her own therapy practice. And at that point, they're my godmoms. That's all I had.
Yeah.
So if they're going to be on their way, you're going to be here sooner. Maybe you walk me through my next phone call to you, because some of that I don't truly remember the next time me calling you. I think I was on the phone with you as they were approaching his car.
You had called me, said they're flying a drone over his car. They're going to just see what they see. Again, business had called. They thought a man was asleep in his car. My mind at first is the last time I had to pull up on him is stress got to him. He started drinking. Yeah. And he's passed out in his car, whatever.
Yeah.
You then call me as I'm heading up the road that it was on.
Yeah.
And you say, they're approaching the car now. I'll keep you updated. And I said, I'm like 2 minutes away. And you called me as I was pulling into the parking lot. It was the third phone call we had. It was like 12:15 maybe. And you said, I think he's dead. And I just hung up on you. I'm pulling into the parking lot anyway.
Yeah.
Big old brown dude in a big blue truck. I pulled in. I probably scared the hell out of the police officers that were there.
Well, we joked the other day that they're probably thinking this is like...
They thought I was like the side dude coming. Like you called your side guy. And I just remember like streaming into the parking lot.
Yeah.
I like screech the tires. I jump out. And I just walk out and I see him.
Because at this point, I saw everything.
They hadn't walked the car off, which I think... I was told why they do that. It's supposed to be like some thing for you to be able to like accept what happened. But I see his door hanging open. I see him in the car.
Yeah.
And I just see your face. And I just know like...
I remember you sighing. Like...
Yeah. As I was walking past, like I know I have to process this quickly because I have to be there for MaKela. And so I just know you're sitting on the curb with one of the police officers.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, what I feel doesn't matter right now. I saw what I saw. I see his door hanging open. I see the scene. But I know you saw it too. And so immediately I go, what I feel right now doesn't matter. I have to be here for MaKela. And I just go and I remember giving you a hug. And you just went, tell me I'm dreaming. Like, tell me this isn't real. And again, I just knew, like, I knew what had happened. And I knew that was it too. Like, it wasn't a maybe. It was an absolutely, he's not here anymore. And I remember you just like, please tell me it was a dream. Like, tell me, reassure me. And I knew I just couldn't do that, right? We don't want to be.
I don't even remember saying that. I know I didn't want it to be real.
That was it. And I remember writing about this a few weeks later, like that morning. And I was like, I just can't describe the look on her face. There's no words to put to it. Because it was disbelief. but it
just
was
didn't
loss,
understand
but it was anger too.
Yeah.
It was all the things wrapped into one, and I couldn't describe the look in your eyes, like, and I didn't know what to say. I couldn't say anything, and you just said, I can't handle this, I can't handle this, and I just said, you have to.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing else. You have to. I think about your kids.
Yeah.
And I remember your aunts pull up,
And this
I
point,
usher them.
At this point, I was
They
like,
pulled.
stop
I
them 'cause
asked
they
them
were
to pull a
trying-
squad car up.
Yeah, and I remember my Auntie Gina, she was about to like go around because she just like didn't.
Yes. I
recognize
yelled
that
to
I
your
said,
aunts to
"Stop
come over
her,"
to us.
'cause
I
didn't
asked
want
the
them to
police to
see.
pull a car up
Yeah.
to block you from seeing the car. Like, you don't need to continue seeing the
Yeah.
thing. And so I ushered them over to us, and I remember somebody in your family saying, he's going to be okay. And I just remember in my mind going, like, you cannot say that to her. You can't, like, it's not. And I know, and I don't know how much you saw, but I know from looking in that car, this man is not okay. He's not going to be okay. Like, we have to start dealing with the fact that he's not going to be okay.
Well, at that point, the officer, I remember him coming over and he was like, I need to tell you what happened.
Yeah.
And he did. And then he comes back, and at this point, you and my aunts are there. And then they said, I need you to first understand there's a very small chance that this can change, but we did get a pulse.
Yes.
And I said, do whatever you need to do. And so then they said, we're going to take him to the hospital. I mean, it's so fucked up because I remember sitting there on the curb and being like, it's Arizona, it's so fucking hot. Like,
Yeah.
before they approached the car. Like, I just didn't, like, in that moment think it was what it was. Like, I genuinely thought it was like, he was, like, maybe he fell asleep. I'm like, he's got to crack a window. You can't be in 110-degree weather.
You want to think of all the other options, right? It has to be something else. So what else could it possibly be?
It genuinely did not hit me walking up to that car, like, what it was going to be. I remember calling my niece because she was home with him this summer. And I'm like, Maya, I don't have any answers right now. Did Uncle Mikey say anything to you out the way out the door? No, I didn't even know he left. He left? What's going on? I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying, like, to obviously in the coming day, like, minute by minute, look at our Ring camera. But when they said they got a pulse, remember I left my car there. I get into the car with you. My aunts are following, but you're driving me to the hospital. And I'm starting to run through with you. I said, I don't get this. He could have just told me he needed to leave. I don't get this. I don't get this. I don't get this. We get to the hospital. I remember Amanda meeting us there.
Yeah.
And even in that car ride, I'm more concerned of who do I need to tell right now.
You had texted his mom.
I had texted his mom.
I told her what happened. I didn't want my wife going to where it was, so I told her to meet us at the hospital. I told her what had happened, obviously, very quickly. She was with our kids at swim.
Yeah. But with his mom, I texted her more so because he sent me the text saying, I love you. At that point, again, his story is of his own. I can only speak to my role in our experience. And so with that, I will share his mom was already out of our lives.
Yes. But this is still her son.
This is still her son.
Yeah.
And I will always...
There's a level of respect that just naturally comes with that position.
Yep. Even to this day, every single text has been responded to. I have empathy for her as a mother in that moment. But when we're driving, I remember texting her saying, have you heard from Michael today? Probably hadn't texted her in...
Oh, wow.
I don't know, maybe a year. And she said, no, I hadn't. Why? I used to send her texts like that when he would go on his 3 days not speaking to me or what.
Yeah.
Usually on a drunk bender. We pull up to the hospital. They then confirmed he was dead. And I immediately asked, to this day, I don't remember. I think it's been told that it was my aunt. I don't know. I think I gave your wife 2-3 people to call, and I think I gave my aunt 2-3 people.
Yeah, because I took your phone.
Yeah.
You just didn't, like, the people who needed to know could spread it to everybody else who needed to know.
Yeah.
Your aunts could call your uncles.
I think
Somebody
I had
could call
you
your
guys call
grandfather.
his aunt and uncle who live here.
Yeah.
Who we had a great relationship with.
Yeah, I called Gerard.
Yeah.
And everybody was
Gerard,
like,
Jared. It's
Jared,
spelled Gerard.
sorry.
I know.
Gerard. It is.
I know. It drives me nuts.
I knew everybody was coming to surround you, right?
But in that moment, I'm then being interrogated by police officers. How did I know what was going on? All the things. And at that moment, it just didn't feel real. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. I just can remember looking at Amanda saying, Amanda, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I remember, I don't know how many hours we were there. They were saying they're going to take his body, do things and whatnot. And I said I wanted to see him, feel him. And they're like, well, we have to run an investigation. You can't touch him. He's bagged up. And I said, I just want to feel his body. So I remember being alone in the room. I think you and Amanda walked me to the room.
Yeah, we were all, your whole family walked us there.
Yeah. And I just wanted to feel his body. Because I kept seeing him in the car and being like, why? Why aren't you moving?
Yeah.
I don't get it. And so, in that moment, I remember I kept just saying, what about the kids? They're supposed to be picked up. What are we gonna do? I can't go home. What about my niece? Someone needs to go to her. Can someone go find a note? Like, someone tell
But not tell her what, like, that was the thing.
I didn't
She
want
can't
her.
know what happened.
She can't know what happened.
But we have to make sure she's okay.
She needs to hear this from me.
Yeah.
I take on the role as her mom. I knew my kids needed to hear it from me. I knew she needed to hear it to me. This was not her fault. I don't know to this day who drove me to my aunt's house. I don't know.
I think one of your aunts drove you.
I think Katie and Jared did.
Okay.
I think Katie and Jared did.
And I went to go pick up your kids.
Yeah.
I left to pick them up and take them back to our house.
Yeah.
Her parents were there watching our kids.
Yeah.
Amanda came home. I went to go pick up your kids from school and just hold them at our house until you were ready for me to bring Andre. I think somebody else picked up Kenna.
The teacher who's helping with the kids, I said, I need you to take Kenna.
And I just had Andre come play at our house.
Yeah. But I remember it was important to me. Again, Andre was already in therapy. I wanted to get on a phone call with his therapist. And I first want to see if she can come to my aunt's house. But to talk me through what do I say or not say in this moment.
Yes.
Too, at the time, was still my 3-year-old.
Yeah, how do you explain it,
How
right?
do I explain this? What do I say, not say? So my son was, Andre's not even 4 yet. Kenna wasn't even a full 1.5 years yet. And so I knew everyone said, do you want a night without? I said, no, I want to see my kid. And I remember Andre getting there, which I'm sure you could speak to what it was like driving him.
Yeah, that's because it's an important part as well, especially something specifically that happened. So I go pick him up at school, and I have to, like, I'm prep talking myself, right? Yeah. I called my best friend, talked to him a little bit about what happened. I texted one of my mentors a little bit about what happened. I remember saying, like, how do I pretend for a few hours like I didn't just see what I saw that day? How do I play with this kid? You know, his 3-year-old, and pretend his dad didn't just die that morning, because it's not for me to tell him. No. So we have to act like things are normal. And like, Uncle Kyree's just coming to pick you up from school that day. And we get to still have fun, right? We're still playing in our front room. They're playing with our kids. They're playing with Amanda. They're playing with my in-laws. And just everybody trying to love on him as much as possible. This just speaks to the weird, like, scary wisdom kids can have.
I know.
Even though he had no clue what was happening. He knows I'm driving him to Auntie Gina's house because mommy's there. And we pull into your aunt's neighborhood. I almost got mad at him. We're playing his basketball songs, right? From Like Mike. Space Jam. And for some reason, I still can't explain. We're pulling into her neighborhood. And he goes, Kyree, can we play? Three Little Birds by Bob Marley, which starts off, don't worry about a thing. Everything's gonna be all right. And again, I just go, what the fuck, dude? I remember looking up, like in my car, I was like, God, really?
Yeah.
This kid's about to know.
His whole life's about to be shattered.
And find out that everything's not gonna be all right, and everything's already not all right. What in this kid already understands that he needs to hear this song right before coming in and... Because at 3, again, like what we talked about on this podcast, he doesn't know any of that about his dad.
No, he doesn't.
His dad is Superman.
Zero. To him,
he would tell me. Almost every time I saw him, he would tell me his dad could beat me up.
No, I believe so.
Like, Kyree, you know, if you keep tickling me, my dad's going to beat you up. If you do this, my dad's going to beat you up. And it was funny. And
that's who Michael was.
That's it. That was Superman to him. Yeah. And I just remember giving him the biggest hug. I kissed him on his forehead. I was just like, I love you so much. I didn't want to say what happened.
No.
But I know this kid's like, his life's about to be turned upside down. I drop him off. I didn't want to stay long. I know your family's already dealing with it. And I was like, well, I'll talk later, but I just give him a hug. I give you a hug. And I was like, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
I can't even... Obviously, I know how hard it was for the conversation that followed with Andre. I can't even imagine one I didn't even remember, as you're describing, him going over to play at your house. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. I remember the officer coming to my aunt's house to speak to me again.
Yeah, they dropped off his phone.
Dropped off his phone? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, she brought his phone to your house.
She brought his phone. Which we'll get to that in a moment. But just thank you. Because as we've talked, Michael knew I was going to call you and your wife in that moment. So just thank you for showing up that day. Not just for me, but for him.
I remember you apologizing for calling me.
I did.
And immediately in my head, I just go, who else should you have called, right?
I know.
You call my wife. I don't want my wife. I obviously didn't know what was going on, but I don't want my wife seeing that.
She was in the right.
I don't want your aunts to see him.
You were at the right phone call.
No. I don't want your aunts to see that. I don't want your uncles. I don't want Kevin and Gino to have to walk up and see what I saw. I was the right person to call. And even, I know you felt a guilt of calling me, but immediately I was like, no, who else? Yeah. I'm close enough, but I'm far enough, right? I'm not really related to you guys.
Said he knew you would have called me.
He knew exactly who you were going to call.
Yeah.
And there's a maybe unnecessary part, who knows? But I remember one of my really good friends asking me afterwards, and I hated that he asked me the question. I got mad when he first asked me, and I really had to sit with him for a second. He was like, do you think you being there and knowing your wife being there, that it made it an easier decision for him to do? And I hated that he asked me that question.
I don't think so.
And I don't know, but I said at minimum, he knew his family was going to be taken care of.
He knew I wasn't going to sit there alone.
Yes.
Like I would have if we still lived in California and that was the same outcome. I wasn't going to be alone in that.
Yes.
I had family.
There were people around you.
Yeah, which we'll get to.
But that's the thing. He he made a decision knowing like that this is going to be the worst thing that could possibly happen.
It wasn't in her home. No
And
one
that
saw it.
It was as clean as it
action.
could have been given what happened.
Given what happened.
And I know people had asked, how does it happen? What exactly are the details? And that's not something we need to get into because I don't think it matters as much. But he knew that you guys were supported, loved, like everybody was going to surround you. And that's what I saw really that day was like everybody, there were 20 people at the hospital, like everybody comes rushing in.
Yeah. 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 I think my cousin Cass brought Kamaya to my aunt's house first so I could talk to her. So she knew first.
Yeah.
And then I think you came with Andre.
Yeah, it was in the evening. It was hours after we left the hospital.
Hours.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of people ask me, what do the kids not know? What do they know? And obviously my daughter, being as young as she was, her hurt, her journey, I recognize will be something that comes years down the road. That's in the future. Yeah. It's my son in that moment who had daddy drop him off that morning. Why isn't he here that night? My mom, when she had passed, he understood. He saw me for 2 weeks going to the hospital every day.
Yeah.
He knew she, at that point, was sick. He didn't understand how could Michael die. And so what I was encouraged by with his therapist at that point was to just keep it very matter of fact. And it was, I need to tell you something really hard. Daddy died. And in that moment, it wasn't the word suicide. In that moment, it wasn't the reasons and what I saw, what we saw. At that moment was my son needed to know a fact. It wasn't daddy's on vacation, daddy's on a work trip. We can't
pretty this up.
Nope, he needed to know that day, and I wanted him to know that day. I didn't want him to think that was a secret I was holding on to. One of the questions I had received was, what were the kids like following? And you both know, for really, I would say a good 3 months, Andre didn't sleep. It was maybe till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd watch my 3, then a month later, 4-year-old sit on the edge of the bed, like physically grappling with, but I want to play with my dad, but he's not here. And I have to keep reiterating to him, he's in a place that we can't go visit and you can't go and say hi and come back to.
Yeah. Yeah, how do you break that down, right? Like even you saying it's not, like you're not mentioning suicide, like a 3-year-old doesn't know what that means.
No, he doesn't know what that means. And I don't want him to learn the narrative, I can kill myself and go be with my dad.
Which is something you learned from the therapist, right? Yeah. Like that kids will try to go recreate that. And that kids have accidentally killed themselves to go be with daddy or go be with mommy or go be with grandma, grandpa, whatever, that are in heaven or that are whatever. I remember we had donuts and coffee the next morning.
Yeah, because then the next day, so that was Thursday, it was Father's Day weekend on Sunday. The next day was supposed to be donuts with dad.
At school.
At school. And I said, I don't want him going to school. And so I had asked you, my uncles.
All the men,
the 10 of you men. And you guys all came over to my aunt's house and did donuts with him. He didn't know, but he just thought he got to see everybody.
Yeah.
And I didn't want him to go to school that day. And so, it's hard to this day. It's more so, I meet him where he's at. I am so proud of my little 4, almost 5-year-old and the way he's able to articulate his feelings. Because I want him to know I want to hear his feelings. Just like I wanted to hear, and I created that space that week to hear Michael's feelings. So right now, where he's at is he doesn't know yet that it's suicide. There are pieces of that story. He knows you were with me that day.
Yeah.
He knows you were with me when I found that daddy had died. He still knows Michael to be an incredible father because that's the only truth that Andre knows. And I will never change because I still know him to be that. The amount of people who would stop me and be like, God, I hope I see him such an active father, all the things he was.
Yeah.
I never want Andre to lose those memories. So the videos he gets to watch, the pictures he gets to see is that. The conversation that we had is how important it is to have to work on your mental health.
Yeah.
To be able to ask for help. And while immediately following, I thought this would be a conversation at 15. Given my career and what I do, I'm able to plan and see life so differently. I work with couples who no longer have parents and want to honor them in some way. And it was like immediately I could see the present, the future, 20 years difference. And it was so hard.
Yeah.
Because then those kids that I help, those are going to be my kids one day. Who is my daughter going to dance with at her father-daughter dance? It's those things that were running through my head.
Yeah. I remember watching him searching that morning to the next morning. When I came over, I carried him upstairs. They told me that you were in the room trying, because you're still having to coordinate life, right?
Yeah.
You guys had a house you were moving into. You had a bunch of stuff going on. You had moving trucks coming.
Yeah.
And we're having to clean all that up. So you were upstairs in the guest room at your aunt's house, and I carried him upstairs. Again, this kid gets it to a weird degree for a 3-year-old.
He feels things, man.
And I remember walking upstairs, and I'm talking to you. You and I are crying, and he's like climbing on my shoulders,
Yeah.
monkeying around.
Yeah.
And he goes, again, innocently,
Yeah.
Kyree, are you my dad now?
I
was like,
I know.
2 days in a row, dude? You asked me something crazy?
I know.
And I just remember going like, no, buddy.
That's the
Not
thing.
your dad, but I'll be your best friend.
Nope. And that's what I explained to him. I told your wife last week, Andre said, Mommy, when are you going to get a new husband? God bless his heart, because I want somebody to play with me.
Yeah.
His reasoning is so innocent, so pure.
That's it.
And I feel it from him. And I posted earlier this week him being like, Mommy, sometimes, because you took him to the movies, and he like, you could see physically he's just like not enjoying it. It's a movie he would have loved.
Yeah.
But needed to step away from the movie. And I knew right then it wasn't just about the movie. He wasn't scared of the damn robots.
Yeah.
You know? But to even hear him a week later be like, Mommy, sometimes when I'm doing fun things, I think of Daddy and how fun it would have been to do with him.
Yeah.
And then what I'm doing isn't so fun anymore. And it's just, even that for my 4-year-old, I am so proud of him. And I need him to know I will always hold space for those feelings. But even that, we read these books and I see these dads in the storyline or what. This is a book about Michael Jordan where his dad sits him down on the stoop. You got to keep practicing and whatnot. And I stopped because I could see the look on his face change. And he's like, who's going to give me that talk?
Because mentally he can plant.
identify.
Daddy was supposed to be at that.
That's who's going to give me the you got to keep practicing talk. And I said,
Yeah.
hold on, let's stop for a minute and let's name all the men in our lives who love you and who all have that talk with you. Because I want him to always recognize we are still going to miss who he was, but you still have people surrounding you in your life with love.
Yeah. That's the thing is collectively our hope is that we can make up a not a replacement, but a version of what dad is supposed to be is now made up of a bunch of men that care about you, that love you. I remember I picked him up. This is what he passed on Thursday. Sunday, we have my whole family over at the house. And I remember picking up Andre, just like give him some sense of normal. It was Father's Day. He did this 3 days before, which made me even extra angry at Michael for doing this. Like,
because now forever, this will be Father's Day.
this is Father's Day now, like, is a thing. And right before Andre's birthday, like, bad timing, dude, was all I could think about. Where, like, but he needs some sense of that. So we pick him up, like, my family surrounds him. We know I had to prep my whole, like, we don't talk about it. We don't say anything. But, like, if he feels checked out, we even had a prep talk with Andre of, like, if you're feeling big feelings today, come find Kyree, come find Amanda. Like, we got you today, but we want you to also be able to have fun. We want you to feel some sense of normal in a very not fucking normal thing. And that's been, like, that is going to be a pattern from here on out is not, again, there's no replacement for this. Can we find the thing that gives the most that we possibly can to this kid that's never going to have the thing now? But same thing with Kenna, like with, you know, who's she going to dance with at her wedding?
Yeah.
Like, I see a vision of like, there's 10 of us dancing
be
with
like,
her
you
at her
get 15
wedding.
seconds, you get 15 seconds.
Yeah.
These are the men who helped build you guys. That's what I hope for. I think with Michael, I look at, again, that 10 years we were together, I hoped and prayed my love was enough to make him feel whole. It's so much more when I look at them. It doesn't matter. The thing I've learned in all of this, I can't control other people, which as a planner is very hard to accept.
Yeah.
I want to love my kids so much. Not that it's enough to feel the whole of their dad, but I want to love them so much that they love themselves more than anything. Like, that's my hope. What I echo to them, what I pray for is just they, one, don't allow themselves to get to that level of low within themselves.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a historical thing of surviving kids of suicide. The repeat statistics, that is, of course, as a mom, my number one fear. So all I can do is do absolutely everything I can that they love themselves, that's never an option.
Because if we can base it down without details or anything, what is the hole that was left for Michael? Is it just wasn't, like, there wasn't this sense of, I've got myself.
No.
I can rely, like, I am being filled up as a child so that as an adult, I know how to fill my cup. I know how to handle these things. I know how to handle the mental stuff that's going on. When I start to have the panic
attacks or things, here are the 5 things I could do to reground myself.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be, but it's hard in those immediate days. For months, I kept being like, why would he do this to me? I've stayed with him. Why not the 100 other times that things could have happened? Why? Why then? And at first, when I started to probably click for me was, this was always going to be the end to his story.
Yeah.
Thank God it's not 20 years from now and Andre's at his college graduation or whatever it may be. But I started to look at suicide in a very different capacity. I have always, exactly that, like, it's such a selfish act. How could you do this to me?
And that's the story of it, right?
Yeah.
In the world, that's all we've ever seen was that this is selfish.
This is selfish. And don't get me wrong, I recognize this as my version of our suicide story. There are thousands of others where people are watching it happen in real time. It's a spiteful, hateful act. And while I am so thankful that wasn't at the height of our terrible arguments or what, because then absolutely I would have blamed myself. There would have been no version of me that could have got through that.
Yeah.
This was at who we were at that point. We were the best we had ever been. We were great parents, great partners, and we wanted a future together.
Yeah.
So in that way, when I look at his decision to do this was him doing it truly. I actually look at it as he tried to make a sacrifice. Because when I got to my aunt's house and the cops gave me his phone, I unlock his phone and it's a photo of me and the kids. And at first I was like, how could you do that and still look at us? I didn't get it. He, in my heart of hearts, I believe he did this because he knew no matter what myself and the kids gave to him, he was never going to feel whole within himself from his own past life trauma.
Yeah. And that was an act of saving you guys from that.
Yep. And when I've asked her, when I've told myself, how could he do this to me? I've really tried to reframework my head into, he did this believing in me that I can be enough for our kids, that I can get us through this. And he believed in who I was to be. I won't say all of his note, but he said, keep being who you are. You deserve better. And I have to believe it is my job to show the kids, because I am fully responsible to them. What did I say or not do? That I did everything I could to be that better version of our lives without him. And that's the thing. It wasn't just he didn't want to be here with us. He didn't want to even be here at that point. It thought it was best for us to not even have him here to see it.
Yeah. And that was it. When you had said afterwards, I remember, like, abandon us. Like, leave.
Leave for fucking 6 months.
Go start a new life.
Go do whatever, but
don't do this.
Don't do this.
Again, as a man, I have to go from this is selfish. What a fucking asshole! Right before Father's Day, right before your kid's birthday. What? Why are you doing this? And given time afterwards, be able to go. This felt like an act of service. This felt like this is the best path forward for my family. That can be untrue. That can also be his truth. And I think that's where it's difficult. Like that's where it becomes confusing. It can still be wrong, and it can be exactly his version of this. Not speaking for him, my belief is that this felt like this is what I have to do for my family. I can't live without them, so I can't leave. I can't live and be a person without my family, but they deserve to be rid of what I feel is a burden to them. And while, again, you would have never left, you would have never abandoned this in any way, shape, or form, he, I'm assuming, felt the weight that I don't know if I can ever feel deserving of a family. Because again, if you don't grow up with that, you don't grow up with mom and dad at home, you don't grow up with the people around you that love you and fill up that cup emotionally from a young age, you almost feel undeserving of it. And I really feel like a big portion of that for him was a feeling of, I don't even deserve, like, how did I get this life? I'm messed up. I've done these things wrong. Because while we're talking about your experience, we can't pretend like he was an unfeeling person. Like he didn't feel bad for the person that he was before, or that he doesn't feel the weight of who he had been to you in some capacity, in a large capacity. That weight is still carried around, even though he's changed, even though he stopped drinking, even though he's transitioned to being the loving father and husband that you've always portrayed him to be online. He, I think in himself, couldn't feel like that person yet. And he didn't have the tools. And unfortunately, there was a pride portion of it of like not going to seek the help, not reaching out to me in certain areas, that he didn't feel like he was maybe deserving of the family he had built. But like, I talk about this with people all the time. When did it ever have to do with you being deserving? Your job is to be responsible for what you've been given. You've been given a beautiful wife, an amazing family, some beautiful kids, a loving support system. Your job is now just to be responsible with it. It's not to be deserving of it. But if he didn't know to tell himself that portion of the story, I can now understand where before it only came from a judgment of how could you. I can now understand the version of a man that goes, this is an act of service to my family. And while I can wildly disagree with it, I can't imagine it for myself in my own life. I can empathize and I can understand.
Have so much empathy for who he felt the choice he needed to make in that moment. And while I hope and pray this never touches any part of our lives ever again, I recognize this is far more common as tools to do this become more accessible too. I just pray and hope. Again, with my kids, it's just, they know this is never an option in their lives. This is never create that space for anybody around you, so they recognize this is also, you're a safe space. Our family is a safe space. Look at the community we have built. We are here. I just appreciate you for answering the phone, number one, many times, but for still showing up, not hating Michael's choice, hating what it's done to my family. Absolutely. I know it's not easy to watch. But for still choosing to show up and loving on all of us the way you have. So. Just
again, all the feelings are valid. The anger too. Again, I get angry at him sometimes still. When I'm around Andre, when I'm doing tickle fights with Andre or throwing him around in the pool.
Why would you give this up?
Why, dude? This was it.
This was it.
And that's the thing too. We can all regret the things that we didn't say or do. And I genuinely, we've talked about this before. Like nobody could have changed what happened. None of us could have made him do something else. Now, there's probably a bunch of things for the last 30 years of his life that could have been different, but no one thing was going to stop it from happening. Even though I was talking about how it happened specifically, right? If a person had made that decision, they're going to find a way to do it. The method wasn't the reason why he did it. The decision was why he did it. And I remember your aunt saying this, a man made a decision today that affects everybody else, but we didn't control him making that decision. I know we're going to have to do a second part to this. We'll have Amanda and you sitting down in a next portion. We'll also do the Q&A in another portion. We'll do it in your backyard, our backyard, something like that, because we need to wrap up for this, the space that we've graciously been awarded today. But I'm glad we're able to sit down and have like the long version of this, right? You and I, we'd always plan on, let's go have to the casino and cry and talk about this. But life has to continue happening. You have to continue. You have clients, you have kids, you have your own mental health, you have all your own stuff. You have to continue functioning.
Yeah.
And I think we'll be able to answer a lot of what people want to know. People have sent us in questions as well. I've had people send questions. You've had a bunch of people send questions. We'll do a follow-up. It'll be part of this video. We'll just stitch them together. But again, I just think it's wildly important for you to be able to talk about both sides of this as well. Who he was, who he became. Like, again, we're grieving a complex person.
Yeah.
And you're grieving a person that like nobody else can understand, even though you're part of support groups that have had this something similar happen, and you've been able to hear all the other stories as well. To every single person, it's a unique way of going about it. It's a unique healing process. So while we talked about this, like you feel weird posting about having fun or enjoying your life or doing something that's for yourself because of how it might look to other people. But I think this conversation allows people to start seeing a little bit of the background, right?
Yeah.
They don't know all the details, but why you've had such a hard time being able to travel for work or looking like you're having fun or looking like you're enjoying your life, because before this, you've posted about the enjoyment and not the pain.
Yeah.
And hopefully this is helping people understand the complexity of what you're processing as you're still trying to live and move forward in your life. Again, your kids are
It's going to be a part of our lives
4
forever.
and 2.
Yeah.
They have a whole life ahead of them that we now have to, specifically you, but everybody around you have to help them navigate, help you navigate. And it's just not simple. It's just not plain. Just like we don't have a clear, I wish we could hop on a camera and go, this is why he did it.
Yep.
This is what happened.
This is this. This is that.
It would be great to have that.
Real
That's not
nice.
how life works.
No, but it's always going to be holding space for both. And I need my kids to understand that I will still miss their dad. But when they can understand and fully have those conversations with me of, this is also why mommy's choosing to move forward in her life, it's because I believe there's a but in both, and this and they will both exist. So again, just thank you. Love you guys.
We love you.
You and Kyree covered a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of you for opening up and sharing something I know you never thought you would share with anyone, let alone on a podcast. So I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I know, actually, you came into it with the best intention of healing and sharing a message that so many people need to hear. And I hope that landed for so many. But I know that there were a lot of questions left.
Yeah.
A lot of people wanting to know how you are, how the kids are, how you're coping, how the hell you started a business.
Yeah.
What helped you, like all of that. So I think that's helpful for us to dig into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, immediately, because I think that's where you and Kyree landed. Was kind of the day of, like, what you're in your worst moment. What did that look like with the people around you? What did you feel with them around you?
First, I love you. And I could not imagine talking through that day or these questions with anybody but you and him. And even that day, the day before was your birthday. And in that moment, making the call to Kyree, I knew your family was there. And I felt so guilty in that moment, feeling so helpless and still needing help from you guys. Even though you've been my best friend for years, and I've known you for 13 something years now. Long time get up there. I knew I couldn't have called you. And that's something Kyree and I have talked about. I hate that it's something him and I will share, is the image that we saw. But I'm also so thankful that it's not something you ever have to feel, know.
Yeah.
But you still were right there minutes later meeting us at the hospital.
I dropped them kids off so fast. I was like, I gotta go.
I gotta go. And so you say the support, and what did I feel that day? I felt like in the immediate, honestly numb. It didn't feel real. I started to go through like signs, this, what do I know? What were the minutes? What were the conversations? Checking my Ring camera. When did he leave? Who was the last that he talked to? Calling his coworker who I knew he was on the phone with. Was anything said? Did something happen at work that I didn't know about? Like trying to get as many pieces of the puzzle as possible to try to understand.
And you had found none, if I remember correctly.
It was minutes from the time I left the house, he got off the phone, to when he went to that parking lot and made his decision. I remember looking at you at the hospital and saying, Amanda, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I need you to know how many times it's stuck in my head. Right now, you're going to get up for your kids. One day, you're going to get up for you. And that was very wise of you in that moment, okay?
I do have my moments.
You do have your moments. But there's not many times where I don't feel like I can give myself that pep talk. And that was one time I really needed a pep talk.
Yeah.
So thanks for giving me that in that moment.
As your best friend, I start to see you doing more and more of those things for yourself. And in the beginning, I absolutely noticed it was, this is what needs to be done right now. I have to take care of the kids. I have to take care of the family. We have to have a place to live. You're literally supposed to move the next day.
Literally. Yeah. We were sharing movers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And starting to go and do things for yourself. It's healing for me as your best friend to be able to see that, because in that moment, it seems so far off.
That's the thing. It's like, but in each of those steps, I felt so guilty. I think that's the thing. It's like any minutes I was away from the kids, I felt guilt. Anytime I took a hot shower, it was like being a new mom again. How do you, I mean, you hear you got to put on your mask before you put it on for somebody else. How do you can't pour from an empty cup, but like to be not just at an empty cup, like a cup that's already dry, bone dry,
cup coming out of the dishwasher.
Real hot. That was hard. And just exactly that, in the immediate, what do I need to do? And it's sad because I look back now at that day, and I still, in that state of mind, was still so much more concerned about everybody else rather than truly just me and my kids.
Yeah. Who needs to get a phone call right now?
Who needs to get a phone call right now? Like, exactly, when I wish in that moment I could have just tried to absorb. Like, I remember them telling me when we walked into the little side room, there's nothing we could do. He's gone. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, it just like wasn't registering. I wish I would have just taken a second to like breathe. Not that I could have. I mean, it was like question after question that were coming next. Because I had no idea what was going to come next. But was there people there who showed up to the hospital? I am absolutely so thankful that myself and the kids never had to go back to our house again. And while he didn't choose to end his life in our home,
there was no chance I could have ever walked back in through those doors.
Every memory, every moment, the smell, clothes.
Yeah,
Like,
clothes.
I don't blame you at all.
Yeah, where would toothbrush be? Like, it just, there was, and that's like, if I think about one of the greatest gifts I received in this last year was that I never had to pack up our home more than what was already packed to move in 2 days at that point.
Yeah. Which you weren't very packed.
No, we were not. No, we were not. But we were going to have like a week after to like continue to anyways, yeah.
So your family was able to help with the packing.
Yeah. And I had 2 of my other longtime girlfriends flew on the next flight. And even that one, I'm so thankful they came in the immediate. It's like, I just didn't know how to like handle anything. And I am so thankful I didn't even have to ask them, can you please show up? They just were like, we've talked, we're on the next flight, we are coming. No matter what you need us to do, we are there.
Yeah.
Even that my brother who had a newborn coming in like, I don't know, 2 weeks. And I told him, don't come. And he still came. And I really did need him. And I think that's like the hardest thing for me is I don't want to need people.
No.
And I've had a really hard time allowing people to do things for me, which is my biggest regret in this. But I still can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still not good at it.
Because you've always been the I've got this person. And you've had to have that.
Yeah.
Because of so many reasons. Because of so much that happened in the past. And this was like out of your control. And you didn't have it.
I didn't have any control. Yeah. I think that's the thing. It's like, I feel like I look at my whole life and I feel like I've been like training for this moment. And I hate that. And I hate that.
I remember you saying that to me. It's like, somebody's going to say, you've been through so many things. And you're like, I just don't want to have been through all of those things.
It's like so much more beyond my years. And I know that. But I'm tired of my therapist telling me I don't need to come anymore because I could train therapists. And it's like, well, sometimes I just need somebody to help me. I just want somebody to tell me they got me.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's like, when I start to feel the feelings of anger towards him, not his decision, because I understand his decision, but where I feel the anger towards him is he knew how much I desperately didn't want to trust somebody, given what my life was, my family and whatnot before him. I remember him and I were at the Melting Pot near San Francisco, which later became the spot he took me to after he proposed. But we were there, we were still dating, and my dad sent me a text that was, who knows. And I remember he's like, what's wrong? I was like, it's fine. I've got it. I'll figure it out. He goes, that's just it. It's not you'll figure it out. It's we'll figure it out together. And it took many years. And it wasn't until he was a sober Michael that I could genuinely say I believed it. Like at that point in our lives, I thought we were a true team.
Yeah.
Like I look at my niece and when we took her in and at first I was like, she's not your responsibility. It's mine. I got to go talk to her. And he's like, no. Like this was our decision to take her in. She's our responsibility.
Our niece.
Yeah. Like he never was like,
yeah.
I think that's where I get frustrated. And that's where it's easier for me now not to let people help, not to let people in, not to tell people, how are you doing? Well, I don't really want to tell you because I don't want to be even more disappointed when I tell you I need something and you don't show up.
Yeah.
When you make promises to my kids that you want to come over, throw the football or what, like that is where I get angry.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll take the hurt. My kids didn't ask for this.
Yeah.
So don't make them any more promises more than what they've already been told in their lives. Because I have to sit there at 3:00 in the morning when my 4-year-old's like, but daddy promised me he would be the one to teach me this. I don't want to have to make excuses for other people anymore.
So
It's just easier if they don't even,
no.
if you can't commit to it 100%, just to not.
Yeah. You know?
Because that kid has a memory of an elephant.
Yes, he does.
He
And while I'm
does.
so thankful for it, and I'm so blessed to be his mom, oh, is it hard?
Yeah.
It's hard.
I know you and Kyree had talked about those first few nights of him just being up and crying and just like so torn. How have you seen him, I guess, heal, start to heal over the first year?
Yeah. Definitely it was just a lot of like immediate transition. So we spent probably about 2 weeks staying with my aunt, 2.5 weeks staying with her. That was rough. I mean, it was like lucky if he went to bed before 3-4 o'clock in the morning. Just like sitting on, like his physical body couldn't like release the like emotion. That was hard. When we moved, he just really kept asking like, well, why can't we go back to our house? So it's hard because he was asking, it was all still like age appropriate things, but also such big things too. And just trying to understand like, what do you mean he can't come visit? And he's just on a work trip. Just tell me. I would say then in the fall, we had already planned to put him into sports. I know that was like really a hard time for us because he wanted to play basketball. He wanted to play football. And I made sure to have men in our family show up, women, like, let's all just like, please show up to try to be there. And he just could not physically watch other dads with their sons, like playing. And I'd watch him just on the sidelines, refuse to play, crying. And at that point, it was the best thing for him not to play. But it's so hard to watch him know he would enjoy it. And he couldn't do it, but I couldn't force him. It honestly wasn't. I feel like for me and my journey with it, it was really like the beginning of this year when me and the kids did that photo shoot. It was like let's create happy memories. Like, this is going to be a new year. It's never going to feel the same. So let's try to feel the different, but still enjoy what's happening right now. And I feel like when I honestly started to show up a little bit more, filling up my cup, instead of coming back from my work trip at the latest flight out or the first flight back at 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and I'm already exhausted, tired, but maybe I come back at 11 and then I get to pick them up and be like the most like as best I can mom and focus on like one thing, rather if it's getting ice cream or what. Like when I started to become more intentional with my own time, I feel like I started to see the shift in them because he would see the shift in me.
Yeah. You're not showing up empty.
I'm not showing up empty.
Tap in.
Yeah. And I feel like just this year, I think it's just being more willing to tell him you can ask me anything. There's nothing we can't talk about, and just creating that space for him and that like, I'm still going to answer your question to the best of my ability that fits how old you are right now. Instead of, I don't have an answer for you. When I would meet him with, I can't answer that. It was like, well, mommy, you just know everything.
And you're keeping this from me.
And you're keeping it from me. And it's instead than like, truly, we talk through his feelings. I have the same feelings. You're right. This is hard.
Yeah.
But there will be a time that you do get to know everything. What is so important to you right now, to know that piece.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the things you do know.
And I've heard you say so many times, just know that your daddy loved you.
Yeah.
That is the number one thing you need to know right now.
Every time. And it's like, because that's not just like me just telling something to believe. That is absolutely what he knows to be true. And I know to be true. His dad did absolutely love him. His dad wanted to be his dad.
wanted to be both our kids' dads. So when that talk comes to explain to him, this was your dad's choice because he loved you. And I know I came to me like, how can I tell him this? Yeah. He's going to be like, you built up my dad to be superhero. But why did he still not want to be there? How can both still be true? And it's like, if I can't authentically believe that, yes, he was able to change. Yes, it sucks what our lives were before that. I have to believe both are true. I have to believe he did what he thought was truly the best thing for me and the kids. Mm-hmm. Because despite the hurt in him, that hurt wasn't going to change.
Yeah.
And if I want Andre to have a fighting chance at a beautiful, positive, healthy relationship in his life, he has to know all of this, not pieces, not parts, not a refined version. One day he's going to know absolutely everything because he does deserve to know that.
Yeah.
And I want him to know this was not your fault. This was truly for you. And yeah, I have to believe that. And obviously Kenna's going to be a very different.
Yeah, her will look different.
Hers will look different. Time. Yeah. But even that with my niece, I went to her award ceremony the other day and I'm watching her walk across the stage. Who a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, this girl was getting practically straight Fs. Sorry, kid. It's true. It's true. But she was not doing good. And I remember Michael and I being like, why did we do this? And it was so hard. Like, she just like, why are you asking me how's my day? And it was like, we're really going to make this decision. At first, it's going to be 3 weeks, 3 months. And then in May, right before Michael, we had said, if it's not us, who does she have? Mm-hmm. And things started to get a little better by that point. So we were willing to consider it. And we had just, when we took our last family photo shoot, had told her in the photo shoot, you could stay with us until you graduate. And I remember that day, as she was the last one in the house. Mm-hmm. I remember calling her, anything. And I didn't tell her on the phone what had just happened, but she said he just left. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't even know he left. I could immediately, when she's walking across the stage accepting this award, be like, and I'm hard on her, you know that.
Yeah.
I could picture myself if I was her at 16 years old when this happened. My mom was practically, her mom was raising her, had just passed. She didn't want to come to us. And now is this my fault? Is he doing this because of me? And her and I really hadn't had that kind of dialogue. And I'm looking at her crossing the stage and I'm like, God, I'm just so proud of her that despite all of her hurt, her life experiences that she's already had to endure, add on what this last year was. And I remember that day when she came to my aunt's house and I had told her what had happened. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this. I don't even know if you want to stay with us. I said, I looked her in the eyes and I said, Maya, I need you to know I was desperately not trying to fuck up your life any more than it already has been. Mm-hmm. And she said to me, because of you, my life has never been so good. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, I was like, all right, then I have to figure this out.
Yeah.
Because when I was her, I wish somebody figured it out for me.
Yeah.
And when I watched her cross the stage and we get into the car, she totally thought she was in trouble. I was like, all right, I got to talk to you. She's like, what did I do? I was like, no, I'm going to be a sappy aunt. I said, I need you to know right now, Michael's choice had nothing to do with you. I said, but because of his choice, I need you to know how thankful I am because this is the best you've ever been doing. She had to switch schools again. Mm-hmm. But she just told me, I didn't tell you this, she has all fucking straight A's right now.
That's
I'm like, who is this kid? And
literally night and day from when I met her.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. And so it's just, the kids as an overall, it's a daily struggle. And one day it could be wonderful and great, and I have good days. And then I don't know what's the next thing going to come out of my son's mouth. That's just going to like, oh, how did you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
How did your brain think that up?
How did your brain think that up? And before I give him an answer, I always ask him his why. Why do you want to know this? Or what do you think the answer is? Because if I started to interject, that's not allowing him the opportunity to grow. And I want him to be able, he's great at articulating his feelings. So I don't have to guess.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I also recognize the impact my kids play on other people. And especially your kids. Our kids are the same age. And it's been so beautiful, but at the same time, hard to watch our kids grieve Michael together. Even as small as when you guys lost your dog. And the kids are like, oh, they're up there in heaven. Michael's throwing the ball for him. And it's like, it's so cute and so innocent. Again, so age appropriate.
Yeah.
But it's like, we want to be like, yep, you're right. They're totally throwing the ball together, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, of course, our hearts hurt.
Yeah.
You know?
Or when we let go of balloons at his service. And now the kids had seen me with balloons. And now every time we have a balloon, they don't want to hold on to it. They want to give it to Michael. They want to let it go no matter where we are. And we were in Fry's one day and Layla let her balloon go. She's like, it's going to Michael. I'm like, no, it's right there. It's right there. It's not a good idea, girl.
I think that's the thing. It's like, I'm so aware. I mean, the things they learn at school.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, even when he told me the other day that him and his friend at school were trying to figure out how Michael passed away. And I'm like, well, before I told him it's not appropriate to do it, I was like, all right, well, what ideas did you come up with? Oh, well, he thinks it's a werewolf and I think it's a vampire. I'm like, okay. All right, dude. So those are some really great ideas. But here's the thing. I don't think it's really appropriate for you and the other kid to be talking about this at school, you know? But I am aware that it's still his truth. So I want him to be able to go to school and be like, well, my daddy died. Because it is the truth. We're at a Chargers game and he tells the woman, she's like, I saw you on the Jumbotron. He goes, yeah, we're here because we're Chargers fans and my daddy died. And in that moment, I'm like, oh, all right, let me finish drying my hands, in the bathroom.
To
this random lady. But it's still his truth. And that's not for me to tell him, hey, honey, we don't say that.
Yeah, well, it adds shame.
And he shouldn't.
That this is something that needs to be hidden. And I think that feeds into this decision that impacted you all. And I think that if that shame and hiding didn't happen, families could support and love on. So you've always been we don't have secrets.
Only surprises.
There's nothing we don't talk about person. And I think you laid amazing groundwork for Andre prior to this. And even now in all of your guys' interactions, when I'm around, I just, I don't want to say you're the perfect mom to help him through this, but you have so many amazing tools that you're able to share with him. And I don't think he would be where he is a year out of this without you as his mom.
Thank you.
And I could go on.
It just...
And I know you get a lot of that from the work you do in therapy, talking with his therapist and always encouraging him to talk about his feelings too. And I think that's important. I know people have asked me directly, what does MaKela do? Where is her support? What does that look like for her? How can I support her? And I'm like, well, you're a stranger. It's not received the best.
No, it's not.
You got to be in first. So I can do it.
Let me know that I'll
I'll facilitate. But what kind of things help you? You do so much for your kids and Kamaya, but what do those look like for you?
For me specifically, it's hard because I feel like for me to even get to the place to be willing to fill up my cup, I need to know they're taken care of.
Yeah.
I travel for work, and as hard as it is, when I'm gone working, I am like from dusk till dawn and into the night on my computer. You know, like I don't get time for me. But in that sense of, if I had to think of something I do for myself, it's now I stay, either I go in a night earlier or I stay an extra night and I take myself to dinner. And it first became a thing of like, I need to feel him not being here.
Yeah.
And well, he didn't travel with me. I needed to feel uncomfortable. I think that
like
was
alone at a bar.
Yeah, alone at a
restaurant.
bar or a restaurant or now concert. Like I never, if you would have told me I'd go to a concert by myself, I'd be like, excuse me, people don't do that.
Yeah.
It's absolutely one of my favorite things now. And so for me to fill up my cup, or what are things that people did that truly helped me, not asking me first, let me know what you need me to do. Because when I already have a list of things to do, I don't want to make somebody else a list.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to sit down and try to organize my thoughts to come up with the day and the time. And here's how it will be convenient. I don't want the convenient. Nothing in my life is convenient.
Mm-hmm.
I want somebody to show up and just say, I'm here.
Yeah.
Maybe check in with you and say, is she home? You have her location, don't put me in that headspace.
One more thing on your to-do list to let them know that you need something.
Yeah. I'd almost rather you show up doing the wrong thing. Sorry, I didn't know if you guys would like this meal, but I brought it.
Yeah.
That's just for me to just feel thought of is so incredibly kind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people think I'm saying you show up or there's these gestures or things, but I've had friends who don't live here and who'll just send me a heart text message. And that's all I need to be like, I'm just being thought of.
Yeah.
Because I think that was the thing I like in the very beginning really struggled was he thinking of us? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I needed, was just to feel thought of.
Yeah.
Just to feel seen.
Yeah.
Which was hard because I felt like at the same time, all I was doing was hiding. I didn't want to take the kids to the park because public settings overwhelmed me. I was so scared about taking them out alone, 2 kids, just me.
Mm-hmm.
I was so scared. I'd tell Andre, okay, you came here with me, you're going to leave with me.
Yeah.
But it was easier to create this bubble. And in some ways it was to protect us. I was so scared what he could overhear. So scared. How would people respond to him not doing well? But then it became our well, we're just alone. Mm-hmm. And instead he knows I don't let him be with anybody I don't trust. So what can people do is just if you can't physically show up, you can't send something. It takes so little to show that you care.
Yeah.
To even consistently show you care.
Yeah.
Do
you feel like some people who were close to you just haven't reached out at all because they didn't know what to do?
Oh, 100%. I think people don't know what to say. I think there's people who feel like they need to say something.
Mm-hmm.
I hate those people.
Yeah. Got it. I know I shouldn't say this.
I know I shouldn't say this. I gotta say this. Or I remember and this is September, I'm in New York at a close industry friend's launch party in the city, and I'm meeting this photographer for the first time. Oh, so nice to meet you. And I'm just trying to fake a smile and get through this event to be there for my friend. Hi, my name's so I actually know who you are. I follow you. I'm so sorry for everything you're going to. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. Even if you do follow me, even if you do know about my life,
have some normalcy.
Just a little bit of disconnect. Yeah. If you still feel the need, send me that message later.
Yeah.
But at the same time I say that, and then I would meet people and, I would struggle with everybody's like, oh, what's your Instagram? This could be me sitting at a bar, sitting at a restaurant. People like, oh, what's your Instagram? That's the world. And I'd be so scared to show my Instagram. One, I wasn't posting anything about our lives really, but there was just at that time really just the singular post sharing what had happened. People were like, wow, I can't even believe you were out tonight.
Yeah.
You were smiling. I can't even believe I couldn't show it.
This.
Yeah, you're going through this. And it's like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
I still have to show up. I still have to work. I still have to be a mom. Mm-hmm. This is still me trying to live.
Yeah.
His choice was not to live. I still am making this choice.
I know you got so many of those messages the first few times you traveled of like, wow, I couldn't even imagine being away from home right now. And you're like, I wouldn't be away if I could.
If I could, home. I would have loved to take it a year to just be, or just have a month. Like, to this day, a year out, I have yet to have a day laying in my bed for myself because I want to and because I can. Mm-hmm. I can't do that. And I don't mean that in like a pity me way, but it's also the choice that I've made of, I need to show up. I want to show up for my kids. I want them to know wholeheartedly I did everything I could. Yeah. I don't want to tell them that I slept in bed for 6 months. Mm-hmm. I don't. Yeah. Is that probably good? Probably healthy? Probably not. You know?
Yeah, could you use I could use a day.
Half day? A little half day, you know? But now I just kind of squeeze in like, all right, I'm going to let myself.
You're big on your military naps.
My military naps are so great.
A little bit of relaxation.
Yep. I will get it down to I'm feeling spicy, like 16 minutes now.
Okay.
But it's like exactly that. I have to, it's not that I won't let myself feel the feelings, because I think that's not healthy either, which I went through that. But it's okay. I'm going to give myself this hour. You know, I don't schedule a client call immediately after therapy. I make sure to give myself some downtime before, because I don't know what headspace I'm going to be in, and I still have to show up the best I can for others. And so it's how do I create this time? How do I create that space? And you know what? If I fuck up that day, I just have to give myself grace, because I am trying the best I can.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And you have another chance the next day to do better. And we have apologies. Yeah. Like, hey, Andre, I could have been more patient with you today, buddy. Yep. And you're really good at doing that. And
you know, I sent my niece, little shit, a text last night. I'm putting down the kids for bed. They're losing their minds. Andre's already asked to watch, 15 videos of Michael after his meltdown. And then she's out with her friends for a graduation party, and she calls me, and I was just a little shorter than what I wanted to be on the phone. And we hang up, and I send her a text. You know what? I could have been a little nicer to you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, I want grace just as much as I want to show it to other people. Mm-hmm. And as you said, and I say it to Andre all the time, the sun will come back up tomorrow. Mm-hmm. You know, we each get the opportunity to try again. Yeah. So today you might have not been the best listener, but you know what, tomorrow, let's really try really hard. Mm-hmm. You know.
Do you feel like you have been more intentional towards the people in your life after experiencing suicide by a loved one? Like, do you feel like you make more of an effort to love on them or tell them or mend things quickly when you can?
Oh yeah, mending things. Yeah, 100%. That was like, life is way too short. Yeah. I think being more intentional, I feel like I've always been a very intentional person, but I think now I'm so much more aware for what relationships are. So if I truly feel like it's not reciprocated. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it needs to be 50-50 at all times, but like, if it's not genuinely the efforts if I'm going to go to dinner with a friend, you also need to know that's taking away time from my kids.
And you had to get a babysitter.
And I had to pay for a babysitter or whatever it may be. And so if that's not appreciated, then I'm not going to give you my time. Yeah. So I think it's more intentional with who I give any of my energy to, because if I give it to somebody else, it's also taking away from me or them too. As far as mending things, 100%. I feel like life is so short. You never know what can happen the minute you leave your door. Yeah. And so I never want someone to misinterpret our last interaction together, because I don't want that on my conscience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you've mended friendships and even just like messages that you're thinking about somebody, just being more intentional with those things too, because it matters.
Just being thought of.
Yeah.
And if I'm thinking of them, I want to say it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if that message could help them that day. Mm-hmm. And I think it's honestly some of the best conversations I've had with people over this last year is me being willing to be more raw and open about what's been going on. It's allowed me to learn about my people more, and it's also allowed me to learn about strangers.
Yeah.
And
people will meet you with that same
Yeah.
openness and vulnerability.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, is just like, just being more willing to hear, hold space for other people. You know, I think it's so important, because you never know
You
what
never know.
someone's going through.
And I know that the people who have asked you guys, how are you doing today? And Andre responds something like, we're here because my daddy died.
Yeah.
That person had that moment where they're like, wow, you really don't know. Because here I am washing my hands in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear it from this little boy, but his mommy's trying to smile.
Yeah.
And you don't.
Oh, I was gutted after that one.
Yeah.
I
You
was
don't
gutted.
know.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being willing to have those open conversations with people allows people to love on you and help you too.
Yeah.
And so much of what you experienced in your marriage with Michael before he got sober was hidden,
Yeah.
was not opened, was not openly talked about. And so when someone asks how you're doing, you weren't able to really share that. And so I'm sure it's been healing for you too, to as you become more comfortable talking to people
Yeah.
about your heart, what's going on in your heart. you
Yeah.
know?
I think that's the thing, is like exactly that. I did not share. And even in the last, I would really say it was really this start of the new year that I feel like I like started to post to like, all right, this is the morning I just had, you know. I felt like I could breathe a little bit more. Like, all right, like, even if one person doesn't say anything about it, God, I just feel so much better letting it out.
It's not hidden.
It's not hidden. Somebody will read that this was a hard morning for me. What was it like for you? I mean, lots of questions, but even how's it been for you showing up for me when I haven't wanted anybody to show up?
First off, it's easy. I don't have to think about it. Like showing up for you is second nature because I consider you my family.
Yeah.
And that was a decision Kyree and I had made to be there for you and Michael no matter what. And we talked about what that looked like and for the kids. And so when you had lost your mom, give me your children. Go. Do what you need to do. Give me your children. I've got it.
Yeah.
Like, how can I help you? And that was taking care of them until you knew that they were safe.
Yeah.
And when this happened, it was like, no questions asked. I'm there.
Yeah.
And yes, my family was in town, but my mom was like, no questions asked. I've got your kids. Go get her kids. Like, you need to love on your friend. And, you know, I've never had a friendship like that before. I've never had somebody give me what I gave them. So I want to keep doing that. And I don't know, MaKela, I mean, so many people said to me afterwards, you're such a great friend to her. And I was like, I'm just being me. And this is my best friend. And I'm here, you know? And I think that's all you needed was, I'm going to be here. I'll help you organize this. I'll help you clean up this. I'm going to drop off this. I'm going to pick up the kids. I've got extra car seats in my car. Like, all of those things were just no brainer for me. Like I said, if your best friend experienced something like this, would you not do the same for your best friend? Like, what are your limits, you know?
Yeah.
And there were no limits in that. Like, our last house had 6 bedrooms. Did I need to renew my lease and stay there in my 6 bedrooms? You know, like,
we would have loved that.
Yeah,
The kids would have.
But it was just like, I don't know what I can do, but I'm going to be here. And I would rather like overwhelm you with love than not give any of that. And so if I didn't hear from you, I was like, have you had any water today?
Yeah.
Have you eaten today? Like, right now, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And like, even just those little messages, if I couldn't be with you, like I felt like I needed to be right next to you the whole time because I didn't want you to experience any of it by yourself, you know? And so when people have said that to me, like, wow, you're such a great friend to her. I'm like, I've never had somebody I wanted to be that great of a friend to, but also I want to ask them all, what would you do? Because how could you do anything else for your best friend and kids who are best friends with your best friends?
Yeah.
You know?
I think for me,
the greatest part on the receiving end in that is you've never asked for anything in return.
No.
Like at all.
You said, I feel like such a horrible friend because I'm not asking you how you're doing. How are you? And I think I ignored your question.
I think you did. I was like, no. Like, I actually
I'm
need
good.
you to know. Like,
Yeah, I'm okay.
You know?
But it was like,
But
that
I've always needed you
conversation-
to know I'm going to hold space for you too.
Yes.
You know?
But it was that conversation of like, sometimes friendships are 50-50.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're 60-40. Sometimes they're 99-1. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not expecting it. And I think the people who were in your life that had these expectations of how you should have acted, or you needed to ask them how they're doing, and like those expectations on somebody who's experiencing something you can't even wrap your head around are so unfair.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any. Mm-mm. I know you're home. I'm coming.
I know. You're like, wait, I'm in your neighborhood. I'm going to stop by right now. Okay, I'm here. Bye.
Yeah.
I know. But even that, like, I don't know, it was probably like 2 months ago you had said to me, again, because he passed the day after your birthday, and we were talking about I was going to be on a trip. I wasn't going to be on a trip. You're like, I just want you to know, like, you never have to be with me on my birthdays. And I was like, but I want to be.
Yeah.
You know?
But I also know that was your guys' last day together, you know? And I don't want you to feel like you ever have to show up in any of that for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay. We will plan. I'll change my birthday.
Be like,
I will change my birthday. That's it. That was the solution.
But no, I think it's obviously there's going to be times in our lives, because we're lifelong friends. Okay, we got to get our tattoo.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to say I can't wait to return the favor, because then I feel like we're anticipating something bad, you know. But like, I hope. Better thing, I guess, is I hope other people get to experience a kind of friend like you who has just shown up, you know, because that's what your kids are going to see is, why are you leaving rocks on your neighbor's doorstep for the neighborhood to draw on, because it's going to bring your neighbor so much joy. And that's what your kids get to grow up with, you know, like as the standard of how you treat not only the people you love, but even the people you don't know who might be strangers.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a gift you're going to teach them too.
And so many people don't know how to lend kindness to somebody else. And it really is the little things. And for the people who want to be better at it, you know, or you have somebody in your life who's hurting, going through something that you don't know what to say. Honestly, I would say don't say anything, because your words are probably wrong and they might come out in a hurtful way. Yeah. Just like, don't say anything and just do something. Hey, I made these cinnamon rolls and I've got 4 extra. There's 4 of you. I'm going to bring them over. Yep. You know,
you don't have to say more than that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Just the little thing like that. And you might not like cinnamon rolls, but they cared enough to come by your house and drop off the cinnamon rolls. You know what I mean? And I just think if you're willing to get uncomfortable just to show somebody that you love them, it gets easier.
I think that's the biggest thing is there's been plenty of family who hasn't known how to show up. There's been friends who don't know what to say or how to show up. And I think that's it. It becomes so much easier for people to, the first 2-3 months, they know how to be there. It's cool. I can help you move. I can do this. But how do you show up when then our lives are not normal? How do you interact with us when it's uncomfortable? And I think that's it. The people who I've accepted can't show up is they don't know how to sit with the uncomfortable. I can't fault them for that. Yeah. I just can't appreciate them either for being there when it hurts and when it sucks. And when my son says the comment and I have to put a brave face on and turn around and then I cry. You know, like if you can't handle that, then you just shouldn't be around us then. Yeah. You know, I'd even so much rather somebody still show up and be like, this is really hard. Yeah. This is really hard. I miss him. It's people think they're not supposed to talk about him because especially it was suicide. No, I'd actually so much rather prefer it that you did. So I don't feel like I can't talk about it.
Yeah. Or that Andre can't talk about it.
Yeah. You know, and it's like I went to dinner recently with a couple of mine and exactly that. They were asking, you know, they had somebody who was going through this.
Wanting to commit suicide or having
attempted, was not successful. And
his wife was like, obviously he had shared this with my husband, but I'm aware, like, is it something that I should like bring up? Should I not bring up? Like, how do I navigate this? I said 100% say something.
Yeah.
Because first of all, once you're married, in my eyes, your team, no matter what, there is no secrets. Yeah. And so in that, by association, they have to know that you know. Mm-hmm. So let them feel like you know, even if it's you guys are all out to dinner and you might not have the words, but have your partner say like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, we're both a support for you. Rather, if you want to talk about it, not talk about it, we're just here. I said, but don't make them feel like them saying it is going to make you uncomfortable. Be that one.
Yeah.
They're already in it. They're already feeling it. They're already aware of it. Like, just do it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the version of say something.
Yeah.
Like,
don't leave those words unsaid.
No, you know.
Especially when somebody's in that headspace. Mm-hmm. You matter.
You matter.
We're glad you're here tonight.
We're glad you're here. Great to see you today. You know, like, I think that's the thing is I'm just so grateful now for the time I do have, for the people that I do get to spend it with, is that I'm going to enjoy this moment. Yeah. You know, because obviously that can change. And I don't have, if there is any lesson I've learned this last year as a planner, I actually have very little control over anyone. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't have any control over anybody, but I have very little control in this world. Yeah. All I truly can do is control myself and hope and pray that what I do to pour into my kids helps them. Yeah. You know, but even that, I tell Andre all the time, I said, you are not responsible for anybody else. Mm-hmm. You are only responsible for yourself. Mm-hmm. Because I want him to understand that. Yeah. You know, and even that, I tell him, be the friend to say make a new friend. Every single time I'm on my work trips, I always make it a point. I mean, I do it at home too, but I always make it a point to ask him, what's your one nice thing you did for someone today? Usually he opened up the door.
Hey, that's nice.
I'm like, that's good. Yeah. But I'm like, okay, what's their name? Yeah. You know, or just how to introduce yourself to somebody and he learns their name. Nice to meet you. Mm-hmm. Like, I want him to understand like those simple bits of manners, but it's actually just being more aware of people. Yeah. You know?
Eye contact.
Eye contact. I want him to always find the little moment in the day to do something nice for somebody. Yeah. And some of his things have been so beautiful that this new kid in his class has a really funky name. Yep, just a funky name. But he said kids were making fun of his name. And he's like, so I made a point to learn his real name, Mommy. Like, and he says it with so much confidence. And it's like, I love that. Like, he's like, well, he's cool. He's brown like me. You know what I'm like? I want him to love people.
And you're instilling that in him now because this is when it starts.
This is when it starts. Hate is learned.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah. You know, so we're just going to start with that. Mm-hmm. You know.
Such a smart kid. Such a smart kid.
He is too smart sometimes.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I know we had a bunch of questions that had come up, and I feel like we've covered a lot of them. And I know a lot of people have questions and have asked you some outlandish questions, some really, really great. I just want to make sure we covered two of them because I know they meant a lot to you. Mm-hmm. So the first one, what did you love most about Michael? And did that change? Like, did that change over the time? Because you guys were together for a long time.
Yeah.
Did that change?
I loved a lot of things. I think early MaKela really loved who I knew we wanted to both be as parents.
Your vision for your future together.
Mm-hmm. I used to always talk about the table. My favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. And I used to always be like, can't wait to sit across from you at that table. It's hard now where I get emotional with it is because there was also times when we would fight, to be honest, where I'd be like, I want to sit across from you at that table, but I don't want to know the kind of hurt I'm going to have in my heart if things don't change. That's what I'm telling. sitting across from me at that table. But really, MaKela wanted that table. I really did. Two of the things I loved most about him, he was funny.
He was a practical joke.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. The prank wars we had going in our families was real great. His confidence. I think the man who I loved in the end was just so different. Like, I loved that he did change. Like, I remember the first time you and Kyree sent me a text after he had become sober. We had all hung out, and you were like, I just have to tell you what a difference it was seeing him. Like,
aura was so different.
So different. Our conversations were different. What we talked about. Like, I love who he changed and grew to be. I love the dad he grew to be. I mean, that's when the drinking affected our son, when we still, like, COVID year living in California, that's what made us move here. Because I realized where we were isolated.
Yeah.
I needed to have my mom. I needed to have our family. At the time, you were like just getting here, you know? I think you moved here like 2 months before us. Just happened to be 10 minutes from my family. But who he became to be is who I, like, so desperately dreamed of.
Yeah.
And I think about the father, like the amount of people would be like, God, I wish I had a spouse like him or baby daddy like him who was as involved. Like, he wanted to be the one to, like, do the damn thing. Didn't care if he was making a damn fool of himself. We were all dancing. We were all doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still do the dance parties?
You still do the dance parties? Did them this morning? Okay. As I'm cooking breakfast, I see Kenna just, like, shaking her butt, but, like, eating strawberries. And she's not even, like, just by her. And it was just like, you know, and it's like, I want, as much as there's hurt, I'm still so proud of the man he did grow to be. Yeah. And I will never tell my kids it was just this or that.
Yeah.
Because they need to know this came to become that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
What did you love most about him and our friendship that came of all of it?
Well, the first, like, the memory that comes to mind is when I was in labor with Knox and we're at the hospital and I'm like, oh no, the dogs are in their crate. Michael, can you go let the dogs out? Because you were home with Kenna. She was a newborn.
Yeah, she was 6 weeks.
And he goes into our house and we had this Cane Corso. And he goes into the house and he sees the dog and he shuts the door. He's like, keep going there. We're like, you've met the dog so many times. So many times, but just the messages we were getting, they were just so funny. And I just remember that just once we cracked him like an egg and we got to know him.
Yeah.
He was just so funny.
Yeah.
And he was intentional too. He would send the messages thinking about this, or I saw this and it was funny and I thought about you.
Yeah.
And I always just appreciated that we were able to see the Michael behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody deserves to be seen like that. And I'm sure he felt a lot of shame and hiding so many things through his life too, that it felt good to have a pair of friends who really who knew more about him and loved him. Because I think he experienced a lot where people would shut off if they found certain things out, but never to love through that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. The prank wars were good.
Now, everyone's burning question is, how the hell did you just start a business?
Oh, Lord.
And had it been something you've been thinking about? What inspired you?
Yeah. I think, one, I was so skeptical of launching Andre McKenna when I did, because I was so fearful. I didn't want people to think it was because of him. This was also the right thing for me professionally and personally. And I've been doing this now going on 13, almost 14 years. Like, it truly was the right decision.
And to be honest, it was Michael for probably the last 5 who was like, I don't know why the hell you're doing this way. You should be doing this for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was truly me just being like, no. If I have to reclaim my life already and start at rock bottom, I also want to know I can do everything on my own.
Yeah.
And it became a thing of, I want this, I need this, I want to excel at this, and not just because, quote unquote, we need to, because I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, when I tried to figure out the name of Andre McKenna, more often than not, planners tend to do like first and last name events. And it just didn't feel right for me. I want this to be a legacy for my kids and to be able to tell them. And when I told Andre, mommy's going to be starting her own business. What's it going to be called? Andre McKenna, after me. Oh, it was so cute. And then when we did launch, and he's like, Mommy, did you start your own business yet? And it just is like to see that for them. Like, yeah. I always wanted to be, for me, I wanted them to see Mom can do it too. Mm-hmm. And it's now I want them to see Mom can do it too, but she's doing it all. Like, I want them to know I got them. Mm-hmm. Is it easy? No, but in that same way, I want them to know their dreams never change. They should never become smaller. Life may change in the way you may get there, but I always want them to know you can get your dreams. Mm. And I'm excited to see where that takes me, where that takes them. 20 years from now, Kenna's going to be owning the damn thing.
Oh, you picture it. This was over here.
This was a little sassiness, but for me, it wasn't because of him. It's not for him. It's for us. It's just now with a different backbone of, I really want to just do this for myself. And the boundaries I've needed to create around me, I don't have to tell anybody how or why I do things now. Mm-hmm. It is truly just because it's the right decision for me.
Yeah.
And that's why,
Yeah. Well, you've built something so beautiful. Thanks. And I hope you are so proud, because we are.
Thanks. So proud of you. That's the thing. I like even that you guys have, I get published in something and I come over thinking we're doing family dinner and here's a banner, congratulations, a cake and things. And it's like, you guys have shown up beyond just what like a friend shows up. Like when I tell you, you guys are my family, it's because I genuinely have felt like you guys have shown up at times better than my own family, without me ever having to tell you. I think here's the biggest thing, Amanda. I've always had to explain to people how to love me. The amount of times I had to explain to Michael why my feelings were hurt. I've never had to explain to you how to love me, even as your best friend. Mm-hmm. So, I mean that, just thank you.
I get your brain.
You do get my brain. That's right. Here you go.
I'm calling you because I haven't heard from you. Yes, and that's not like you.
Yep. Or when I have something in my house that you're going to go get, and you're like, she wouldn't have put this in her garage. Let me go to her closet. I know exactly where this is. And sure as shit, there it is. Yep. It's right there.
Yeah.
Probably still there. Could have been no
Truthfully, when we first started becoming friends, like refriending.
Oh, yeah.
Growing on that. I took some notes.
Shut the front door.
I don't know if they're in your contact.
Stop it.
Well, I wanted to be intentional. So I had them. They're not currently in your contact. They were in your note on your contact. And you know what I think it was? I think it was... It might have been your Andy's order.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Or like...
That's a really good
our
one.
Shared love for pie shakes. I was like, what pie shake was it that she loved?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So, really anyways, taking notes helps you too when you're making,
intentional friends.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be intentional, you
well, now I'm a shitty
things.
friend. I didn't have notes on you.
Peanut butter and chocolate.
Hey, well, I know that. But okay. I'll get you a Reese's every damn time. Okay.
Well, thank you for. I mean, thank you for having the conversation with Kyree. I think on both ends, I saw how healing it was for you guys, just witnessing it and talking through some of these things. It's like people just don't know, and you can't fault them for not knowing. But once you know better, you can do better. And I think there's so many questions people have had that the answers can translate so well to their life and somebody in their life that's experiencing something. And once you know how to love on somebody, you should be there. Like that's your duty. Once you're in, that's your duty to love them. Yeah. Otherwise, step away and let somebody else do it.
Yeah.
What message do you want to end on? If there's somebody listening to this, let's end on 2. So if there's somebody listening to this who's experienced any kind of domestic violence in their relationship, what message do you want to send to them? And if there's somebody listening who knows somebody who is experiencing thoughts of suicide, what message do you want to send to them or leave them with?
Yeah. I would say if you are somebody experiencing domestic violence, mental abuse, physical abuse, any of which, you do not deserve that. Anything that you did does not excuse their behavior either. Which is a lot of what I tried to convince myself. So if I was going to give anybody a message, there is never a reason why it's okay to put your hands on somebody else. It is never okay in any way, shape, or form. You can walk out and you can leave.
Yeah.
If you have kids, it is your duty to leave. And if you don't have somebody within your realm, again, we were alone and isolated. I didn't feel like I physically had anybody. Come up with an exit plan. Create a go bag. Have a way to, which is something like my mom and I did once I had moved out, was if things ever get to that point, so that way if you needed to send an SOS, but you couldn't physically, have an emoji, have an inside thing to somebody, so somebody knows there's something going on. Make sure somebody knows your location. That's just safety for yourself. Again, you can't control other people, but you can control the things that you could do to prepare yourself to leave. And there was times I had no money. There was times exactly that after our trip to Reno, I remember at the time it was going to be a extra $1,000 crossing state lines fee for renting a car. And I was like, I don't have an extra $1,000 to rent a car right now. What am I going to do? My only option at that point was to get into a car with him and drive home silently. And from that moment on, I made it, I will never be in that position to have to rely on somebody like that when I don't want to be around them. So my biggest piece of advice is to create your backup plan, whatever that may look like. There are so many shelters and things and resources that there are out there. I wish at times I wasn't so prideful to take them.
And I wish you weren't on that island.
Many times I really wish I wasn't, but again, in hindsight, I would have liked to think I would have handled them differently. But until you're in it and that's your daily, it becomes so much harder to change. When I truly believed he would change. And again, I've never wanted by me sharing this to be if you stay, they will too. That's not it with this. That is...
The chances of that happening are slim.
Here's the thing. He shouldn't have changed. He had everything working against him in his own life that I say there was no reason to. Obviously, I would have hoped me and the kids were. If he never would have, I would have been well, I still understand it. Because his mental health issues were independent of us too. I think if you are the person experiencing mental health, if I could give
that person a message is you matter to so many people. And it may not feel like it, but exactly that, the sun will come back up tomorrow. So it's kind of like when you said to me, right now, you're going to keep getting up for your kids. One day you'll get up for yourself. To that person in that dark moment right now, may not feel like it, but you're going to get up for somebody else until you can get up for yourself. Figure out what it is that makes you genuinely happy. Hold on to that. Even if it's the only 5 minutes a day you get to do that thing, find that. You matter. And I would have so much, it's hard. I would have so much have rathered him. I've told you and Kyree, go disappear.
Yeah.
Tell me you'll be back in 3 years, even if it's not with me. God, I would have been the greatest co-parent. If I would have known what would have been the other side, I would have approached it differently.
Yeah. Because that loss, that hole.
That loss in that hole. But I say that now on this side, knowing me in my heart. And again, my mom told him she's never going to leave you. I know me. I would have convinced him like I tried to convince him 100 times. Love
Maybe
me.
packing up your Uber,
Yep.
your U-Haul and driving over.
Yep.
Like, we're here no matter what.
We're here no matter what. I'm in it. I was always in it. You know. To the person who's supporting someone with mental health, I think there's many different versions of mental health.
Of course.
I think there's a lot of different versions of suicide. Again, you can't control them. And the biggest thing that I had learned in talking to detectives and what, they even gave me the damn book that day, basically sharing, if it wasn't the tool that he used, there would have been another. Like, it doesn't matter. Once they've made that decision, they've made that decision. If you're supporting somebody going through mental health, I think you also need to take care of your own.
Yeah.
Because, again, to fill up somebody else's cup, you have to pour into your own therapy. I think if you're with somebody as a partner, watching them go through mental health, don't do it alone. I know it seems like you're bringing other people into your lives and you're opening up. But I recognize when there was times when it was just me and Michael alone, it was so much worse. When he started to feel seen for who he was and what was happening and whatnot, he couldn't hide.
Yeah.
And well, obviously he made his decision. It also allowed for so many other people to see him for who he was, and that his decision was not just is what it is.
Mm-hmm. I know you always say just love on your people.
Yeah, I say hug your people. Hug your people. I don't like to live my life with regrets. So I'd rather say the things I want to say, let people know how I feel about them. I think that's the thing. I know Michael in that moment knew how much I loved him. He knew how much I wanted our family. Well,
Thank you for opening up and having this conversation with me. And I hope that it lands on the exact person that needs to hear it.
I hope so. Thanks for just being my bestie. Always. Love you.
Keep our hug in there.
Yeah. We're pretty funny in this too, just so you know.